Hey everyone, my name's Zach.
My name's Ed.
And before we start the show, we want to tell you about Otakon. It's a convention in Washington, D.C. It's happening there for the first time, actually. And we have a very special panel. It's called 20 Years of One Piece. Ed, who will be there?
Well, it'll be you, me, our our good friend the Dude. Steve will be there. Casey will be there, and Kelly will also be there, as well as Brian.
Yeah, Brian from Rick and Morty, the animation
That's right.
director. Yeah, so we've got a full cast coming. It's going to be Saturday at 11:30 a.m. in panel room 1. Again, that is this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. We hope to see you there, right, Ed?
Oh yes,
Let's get
there
on.
will be plenty of prizes.
Yes. Oh, too many prizes. Like, literally, I'm going to have a whole suitcase full of prizes. But we have a lot of show to get into. Why don't we get started, Ed?
All right.
This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 481 for the week of Monday, August 7th, 2017. My name is Zach.
And my name is Ed.
And on today's show, we have very special guest translator for One Piece in Weekly Shonen Jump, Stephen Paul's with us. How's it going, Stephen?
Hey, I'm glad that I am not going to be the only person talking this week. My voice appreciates it.
After last week? If you haven't listened to
Yeah.
last week's episode, it's fantastic. Stephen takes us through
Yeah.
the entire One Piece magazine, volume 1, bit by bit, instantaneous translations. It was unbelievable.
Speaking of which, I just got this morning volume 86 and the second issue of the magazine, which has a violently neon yellow color. Not as big a fan of the coloring of the outside cover on volume 2 of the magazine, but I'm sure the contents will be good when we get to that.
We also have other special guests, many very special guests with us today. We also have the Eisner Award nominated author of Merman, Joey Weiser, with us. How's it going, Joey?
Hey, pretty good. Just been at home drawing comics all day, so looking forward to talking comics instead.
There you go. You're living Oda's life.
Not quite.
More
Not that
sleep,
intense.
I hope. Yeah. We also have with us our cosplay reporter. Also does the Throwback podcast, whose name just slipped my brain for some reason. We have Dennis.
Hello there. It's the Vintage Anime
Vintage
Club
Anime
podcast.
Club. There you go. Sorry about that, Dennis.
No worries.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. It is still hot in Southern California, so forgive me if the AC comes blaring on, but I'm hoping that the dynamic mic will hide most of the sounds from that.
You have a good mic and a good voice, so it should be fine. And we also have YouTube sensation Roger's Bass with us. How's it going, Roger?
Feeling pretty good. I just recorded like 3 videos in a row, and I was actually just in San Francisco last weekend for a Nintendo event, which I'll be able to talk about tomorrow. But I'm exhausted and at the same time really excited to talk One Piece with you guys.
Perfect. It's the exhaustion makes the best podcasting. Trust me there.
I agree.
Steve could
Sometimes
attest.
it does. Sometimes those hours 3 or 4 of a ranking episode is when all the good stuff starts coming out.
It's when your brain shuts off and you're like, you're just on autopilot.
The mouth keeps going.
We have one last very secret surprise guest that we didn't expect to have on today. You might know him. His name is Greg. How's it going, Greg?
Hey, it's going very well because, wow, both Game of Thrones and Rick and Morty are on, and we got some One Piece to talk about. I am hyped.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm playing Persona 5, so I mean, that's coming along too.
And you've had quite a busy couple weeks. I don't know.
It's been insane. I've been getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and doing video editing and stuff. And I'm not exaggerating. I've been up at 3 and like getting to bed at like 10 and just dying for the past couple weeks. But it's
So you have been keeping
totally
Oda
worth it.
hours, Greg. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. And I've met my I went to my Canadian friend's wedding in New York. So having spent more time with him, I'll probably sound more Canadian now than ever. So let's get at it, eh?
Your New Jersey Canadian roots.
Wow. New Jersey Canadian South African accent. Yeah.
Yeah. This is all very odd, but I'm sure people from all those places appreciate you being on. Can you talk about some of the stuff that you did? I think you might have been hinting at it the last time we had you on, but you can make it brief. I don't want to stress your...
Sure. Yeah, I was on television for Jump Police where I talked about a couple secrets in One Piece. Some of them were cut. I was surprised, but no biggie. One of them was in volume, what is it, 18 or so? I think it's 18. No, 19. In volume 19, where Luffy and Usopp barge into the bar on Smoker and Tashigi on Smoker the second time. There's a little poster on the wall that says, "You must be checking too hard if you can read this." Yeah, so I talked about that. I talked about that on my first YouTube video as well, but I got a chance to introduce that to the good people of Japan. That was cool. While that was airing, actually, after that aired, I had two talk shows at One Piece Tower in Tokyo. And that was really neat. We got some cool backstory about the series, a little bit of information from John Baptiste about the creation of Marineford and Oda's original, well, not original, but his flow of planning for how to deal with Ace and Ace's heritage as well. If you do understand Japanese, I believe somebody has links to them. I think they're online somewhere, but you can definitely check those out if you're interested. And there are more wonderful things coming that I cannot talk about, but very exciting things, very big things. Yes, it is a good time to be a One Piece fan.
Yeah, One Piece has kind of taken over Japan in a way it hasn't in at least a few years. It's been in many of the Shueisha magazines, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, or, featured in some way.
Yeah, man, the One Piece 20th anniversary rolling right into Jump's 50th anniversary. This is going to be quite a few years.
Yeah,
well,
it's been, yeah.
When you get to the point where you have a One Piece chair, I think you've made it.
Like an actual chair? No.
You guys haven't seen this? Oh
no.
My God, there is a One Piece chair coming out. You can win it. And
what's it shaped like?
Is the full sensory experience chair thing?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
It releases like sakura petals. Like it knows what part of the series you're reading, and it gives you like sound effects for the series and stuff.
There's just no way. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think we all want one of those.
Wow.
Yeah, it even comes with a roll of toilet paper, so you never have to leave the seat again. You just read One Piece for the rest of your life.
Yeah, there's those stories of people who fuse to their chairs, so I guess you could fuse to your One Piece chair.
We'll do a podcast version of that chair at some point. It won't smell as nice, I'm sure. So why don't we get ready to get into the show? But before we get even ready to get into the show, I want to talk about Otakon, which is this weekend. We will be at Otakon, and by we, I mean myself, Ed, Steve, Alex, Casey, Kelly, Brian. I think that's everyone. I'm sure I've missed someone. The panel, 20 Years of One Piece, will be at Otakon again in Washington, D.C. at 11:30 a.m. in panel room 1 or room 202. And then there's going to be a meetup for One Piece fans. We're going to be there as well, most of us at least. That's going to be at 1 p.m. By the Carnegie Library West. I don't know what the rain plan is for that, but we hope to see you there. Ed, are you excited for some Otakon?
Dude, I'm excited to be back in DC.
Yeah, please tell your friends if they're even remotely interested in One Piece. This will be a mostly spoiler-free panel. We're going to be mostly just talking about the history of One Piece, and a lot of cool, facts that you might not know and stuff around the periphery. So we'll talk more about that. But yeah, why don't we get into the show? We have our anime recap for episode 800 to go through. We also have our manga recap for chapter 874. So why don't we get right into that and some piece together? You guys ready?
Okay.
Let's do it.
This is the anime recap for episode 7. Oh, man. I'm so used to saying 700. This is the anime recap for episode 800. The first and second join, the Vince Smoke family. I'm your host, Sam, and today with me we have, once again, Ed.
Hello. Doing all right?
That was like an actual, whatchamacallit? motor skill moment.
Oh, okay.
Just out of pure instinct, they said episode 700. This is episode 800. All right, milestone. Screenplay this week is by Atsuhiro Tomioka. Storyboard director is Yusuke Suzuki. And storyboard artist is Aya Komaki. That is a new name. I don't think I recognize that. Is that a woman's name?
I think so.
And animation director is Kimitaka Ito. And as for content covered in this episode, it is the last 8 pages of chapter 838 and the first 5 pages of chapter 839. So this is pretty light on original manga content that we're covering.
Was
here.
that Pedro content? Was that filler? I don't remember them doing that in the manga.
I think it might be like implied filler, or like because both the Pedro Brook and the like Carrot Chopper stuff, they were both in the corresponding manga chapter, but they were also kind of set up in the episode before. I don't. It's getting kind of hard to keep track of some of this stuff.
Yeah, this is first half of this episode was not great.
The title card begins at 5 minutes and 2 seconds. We open up with the continued fight between Gear 4 Luffy and Cracker. Now that we have seen the true Cracker, he's got all of his armor biscuits. And he's saying, learning that there are people that you can't beat is a mark of progress, you brat. He's basically telling Luffy to know his place. And there is just a big series of Gear 4 shenanigans. He's doing that thing where his arm is like bending in different directions like he did against Doflamingo. He's rocketing himself with his feet. He's using his various Kong guns.
Which is cool enough looking, but they don't... It's not like they animate the hell out of it or anything.
No, they don't.
We don't get really any closer to finishing the fight in this episode, so it doesn't feel like a lot was
There are too many opportunities for Gear 4 to look just kind of dumb, I thought. Like they held on the wrong things too often.
Yeah, I can see that.
Cracker continues... He uses his power. Like every time that Luffy is able to smash one of the Cracker armors, which at this point he's getting efficient at, but Cracker just is able to make more of them. He's got these infinite series of armors that he can just keep making every time Luffy breaks one up.
So at this point, we're knowing spoilers and knowing this fight is going to go on for a little while longer is just sort of dampening my enjoyment of the anime because it's just sort of at least this part, because it's just sort of the same animation and nothing much happens.
Then we cut back to a scene with Nami and the homies. The homies are wondering, where did the girl go? What happened? And it turns out, hey guys, I am up here in King Bomb's mouth. And there's this weird like insert shot before they know where she is, where it's like close up on her mouth and it's doing like the bold outline thing, but it looks really messy and weird. I thought it was really ugly looking. But she's got the Viva card, and it's got Big Mom's soul in it, and she's making all her Nami faces, and she's asking the homies, "Oh, who's scarier, Cracker or Big Mom?" As she's trying to get them to go against Cracker's orders.
Is this when Pound tells you that she's a horrible person?
I can't remember.
That was a pretty good line.
But she's asking like, "Who's scarier, Cracker or Big Mom?" Because she has Big Mom's Viva card, so that kind of overrides Cracker's power over the seducing woods. But they are saying that it is her. Nami is the scariest one. So we come back to the mirror world that we saw Carrot and Chopper in the last episode. We learned that these mirrors are basically portals into other people's homes. This world is
kind of
connected
pervy, isn't it?
Yeah, this world is connected to all the mirrors on Whole Cake Island. So it's like this really convenient way of getting around.
This weirdo shaving without shaving cream, or even like soap. What's wrong with this guy?
It's just like a naked dude that Carrot comes across. It just looks empty at first, but then we realize it's steamed up, and like this just completely stranger just starts to wipe away the steam, and he's just naked.
I thought the bit between Chopper and Carrot was pretty good, because that's really like the manga material that we actually got in this.
Right. This is
the
Chobro scene, it's or Choniki in Japanese. Chopper comes up with the plan. His plan is we've got to take advantage of this. It's going to be basically helpful to us to actually be in this world where we can go to wherever we want in Whole Cake Island. We can maybe find Sanji that way. And Carrot is complimenting him like, Chobro, that's such a great idea. And Chopper's doing his routine like, oh, you dumbass, don't think I'm happy because you complimented me.
Right.
And then we come to a continuation of the Brooke Pedro and Biscuit Soldier stuff. I guess I just have no idea what these Biscuit Soldiers are. I assumed, like, are they basically I thought smaller cracker armors?
Kinda. And clearly they can't actually see anything because he was looking directly at them last week. And they can't feel anything because he cut the back off. Like, so what is the point of them? They can't see anything or feel anything. So what is the point of this?
Brooke is ducking between alleyways, and he's using his technique, the secret song, whirlwind slash, which is one of those things. It's like he's using his like weird anime attacks with like the delay and stuff for a practical purpose, which is kind of weird.
Right.
But they open up the back of this Biscuit Soldier that Brooke and Pedro both sneak into. And this soldier's got to be pretty big because they're both tall dudes. We come back to the cracker fight, and they just hold way too long on like Luffy with his legs tucked up, and he's like rocking himself.
Or that weird thing where he does the 6 arms attack?
Is that the organ gun. And this is one of those.
Looks really static. I thought it was supposed to be like in motion.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when in Dragon Ball when Goku like waves his arms a bunch and he's got more arms. Or when Luffy does the Gatling. Right. But this is one of those things that works.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that works in the manga because it's like there's so much speed and energy to it. Like he just erupts into an attack like that. But here, like he grows the arms and he's like holding there for a few seconds, and then he does the organ gun, and then
each arm holds for a few seconds.
And my biggest problem with this episode comes with the fact that we're actually seeing like the sun come up now as morning comes during the fight. I really like how in the manga it's like this moment where we've been cutting around to like Brooke and Pedro to Carrot and Chopper, and then we land on like a Big Mom scene, and we're supposed to have this moment of like, whoa, it's morning already. That means they're still fighting. They've been fighting all night long. But you don't really get that feeling here because we're seeing morning come, and we know the fight's going to keep continuing anyway. And it's just like the mental pacing that happens here that's created by this like choice is like really unfortunate. Like I'm not a fan of it at all.
No, this fight, I mean, with the advent of hindsight, is kind of inconsequential.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't affect things later, but
because I loved how this fight was paced and structured in the manga.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love how it cuts to morning and we're supposed to like really kind of think about how long these two guys have been at it.
Yeah,
but that's not really what they're going for here, I don't think.
No.
So
that's not all that happens in this episode, though.
Yeah. And then there's also a scene with Big Mom, and I like the music here a lot. I like it's like this like Lion King opening chanting music type stuff is how I interpret it. And it's just kind of going on in the background as Mom is talking to Napoleon on her head. And she's saying like
makes her look crazy.
Yeah.
I thought the mouth would move. It doesn't.
She's like, oh, well, this is their last chance to see their friend. And Napoleon's just like, oh, well, how can you say that after sending Cracker after them? They're not going to survive that. Because Big Mom almost seems a little disappointed that there might be a group of pirates with, all bark and no bite. And we see her
like all the rest of them.
Yeah, like all the rest of them. And she's like squishing her own cheek as she's like contemplating how she feels about the Straw Hats. And
she wants her wedding cake too. Yeah. She really wants that.
And then we get to the Vinsmoke stuff. So
this is great. This is all great.
Ichiji and Niji are arriving. There's a huge applause for them, and you see like kind of I just like to think that like Reiji is just spacing out and daydreaming, but she's got this like smile on her face that makes it look like everything pleases her. It's Ichiji and Niji, aka Sparking Red and Electric Blue. They get their big fancy title cards. The animation does pick up a bit. Ichiji seems to be the more chill one, as Niji is just like kind of teasing and like asking why Sanji isn't there to greet them. And I'm actually like really surprised by how deep Niji's voice is.
Yeah, and I was reminded like this, thinking of how unnatural they look as people, even more so than like Yonji and Reiju. They kind of look like action figures.
I mean, like Niji just like wears goggles all the time, and I guess Ichiji has his sunglasses.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's it.
So we come to the inside of Germa's castle, and we see all this like Nazi regalia. Basically, you see the eagle. It's or Shocker. from was it
No.
Kamen Rider, right?
I mean, yeah,
I mean, it's the
but
same thing. It's like
very-
at best it's referencing something that is very deliberately referencing Nazi Germany,
right.
and the country is called Germa. So
You know, I never thought of that. That's ridiculous. Oh my god. Oh, boy.
did it just occur to you?
Yes.
Sanji and Reiju are entering the sort of dining hall. I thought Reiju's like weird walking animation. Her posture is like super weird. If you watch her like pass by in the scene, it looks really bad. And I like this moment between Niji and Sanji where they're like getting up in each other's faces and like Sanji's basically puffing smoke into his face.
Which is weird. They don't make a bigger deal out of that because I used to de-emphasize the cigarette, but like it's sort of blowing smoke right in his face. But I love this whole tense scene. They didn't overplay it, I don't think. It comes off as really sort of really tense.
So we cut ahead to their dinner, and they are talking about the war they were just at Brock Colley. They're talking about how basically Brock Colley gave up on the idea of suppressing their rivals and just called in for help, paid Germa to finish the job.
That was because they couldn't get weapons from Doflamingo anymore. That's
right,
important.
and Reiju is putting this up as an example of how irresponsible do-gooding only increases the bloodshed. You should just peel off the Band-Aid and just murder your enemies. So I guess it seems that Germa, their main priority is money. They don't care about the reasons why someone would hire them. They just want to get paid, and they go on to talk about the Reverie, which
right, but their father upbraids and is like, "That's what pirates would do."
Right,
like we're not pirates yet.
Yeah, and Sanji's just sitting there like, "Dude, I'm right here."
It's interesting that they talk about like they're not going to let them be part of the Reverie anymore after this.
Yeah. Like I couldn't remember if this was in the manga or not because it's such an
no, it is because he's marrying a pirate.
Right.
Princess, so they're going to be pirates from now on.
Yeah, they're talking about they are allowed to go to the Reverie, but after this one, they will probably have that right stripped away from them because of their alliance with Big Mom. Sanji tries to get Niji to finish his plate. He's being kind of a picky eater, just sort of poking at his food, and he's like, I don't have any intention of finishing this. And Sanji's like getting all serious, like, oh, you don't know how valuable food is. And so Niji, just to like really rub it in, he calls in the head chef, a woman named Cosette, and he basically just berates her and humiliates her for not making food up to his standards. And he throws his plate at it, but it flies, and just in the nick of time, Sanji's there to catch it. And it's like this. I thought the pacing of this moment was really good, where he catches it. We are close up on like the food still on the plate, even though he's holding it at like a 90-degree angle, and then after a few seconds, it slowly slides off the plate.
Yeah, I love that. That was a really well done scene.
And Sanji is berating Niji now. How much of an asshole can you be? Are you trying to leave a scar on a woman's face? And it's like, dong, to be continued.
Right on.
General thoughts on the episode, Ed?
It was up and down. There are things I liked about it. Did not like the Luffy Cracker fight in this episode.
Right.
Did not really care about what Brook and Pager were doing. But I liked a little bit with. I thought the part with Carrot and Chopper was funny and cute, and I really liked the whole Vinsmoke scene. Big Mom scene was good too, but that sort of led directly into it, which is a cool editing thing where Big Mom was still talking and they started showing the German Kingdom ships.
Yeah, I had problems with the Cracker Luffy stuff as well. I really hated that choice to kind of show the sun rising in the middle of their fight. I thought there were weird like animation issues and like general like storyboarding directing issues that really kind of choked the interest out of most of the scenes. Like even the Vinsmoke stuff near the end there. Like there were moments where it looks really nice, and you see that because the Heart of Gold guy is like the lead and animation director on the show these days, and like that's why you see that kind of style pop in and out. I kind of wish it was more consistent because when it goes away, it's just like it looks really bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the Cosette stuff is kind of hard to because that's a whole can of worms on its own. Especially as we go on to like next week's episode and like some of the other stuff that goes on throughout the arc. It's hard to watch, Sanji catch that plate and like be like, yeah, go Sanji.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just it's an episode that I really wasn't feeling very much.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you want to move on to the next segment?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Cool.
This is the manga recap for chapter 874, King Baum. We'll talk about our favorite character soon, but Ed, let's first talk about the cover of Shonen Jump.
It's definitely Steven's favorite character. But on the cover of Jump this week, we have these well wishes on 20 years of One Piece from other authors in Jump.
I thought this was 50 years of Shonen Jump, but...
This looks like 1 week of every author trying to rip off Oda's signboard style.
Ah,
like they're all stealing his mojo here.
okay.
These aren't just all their like stock signature dudes.
I'm pretty sure these are just their These are just their. It has nothing to do with One Piece. It's just like One Piece is standing out.
Mhm.
But these are their stock like signature boards. They were drawn specifically for this, but
Yeah.
Is it for the 50th anniversary, or is it for, or just
Nope.
like a cute way to have a cover, I guess?
no,
like
I
it.
don't think so.
It's
I'm
clever.
looking at all the wording around here. Yeah, I don't see anything special.
Yeah. It's just like titles and signatures.
Well, there's a lot of
Uh,
special stuff in this week's Shonen Jump, and before we go to
Yeah,
the
there is.
color spread, which won't make any sense without a little bit of context, we should probably talk about the popularity poll. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this on our Patreon episode, so if you're interested in a more expanded discussion, we'll have that out a little later in the week at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast for subscribers only. But some initial reactions for the popularity poll. I mean, Steven, do you want to take us through, I guess, some of the highlights? Lowlights?
Oh, are we not going to talk about the actual illustration?
We'll go back to... Oh, you want to talk about the illustration first, without any context? We can.
Well, I think we can explain it pretty easily. It's Luffy and the top 20 characters who aren't Straw Hats.
That's right.
That's
Characters
perfect.
in the top 20 who aren't Straw Hats.
Really? You don't say. Well, I thought Jinbei was number 6.
Yeah, but
Why,
shut up.
why is he not drawn? Oda Sensei
Gee, I
must have
wonder.
forgotten to draw him.
Well, so being an English reader, obviously we strip out all of the like editorial and the advertisement text that goes onto these things. So we just get these clean images. But in Japan, in the in the original issue of Shonen Jump, they always have like, oh, volume whatever is out now or coming out at such and such a date. And there's usually some sort of like, oh, Whole Cake Island arc is getting into gear, it's super climax time, or whatever happens to be going on, and they tell you what the theme is of this, and I knew that this is going to be like a popularity poll related cover, but the first time I saw it, of course I'm just looking at the image, I'm not looking at this text on the side that actually describes the very specific theme of what you're looking at, and I was just like, oh my God, Reiju's in the top 10, Cavendish is in the top 10, like wait, where's Zoro? What the fuck?
Marco's in the top 10.
So yeah, it was and then I was like, oh, okay, top 10, okay, that makes more sense. But yeah, I like that he switched it up for this one, to get a better range of characters in there.
This
Little
dragon
romantic
looks
note
been
here.
3D printed.
Yeah.
The previous character popularity poll illustration, where the one where they're on the riding like it's a chariot almost kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going up a beanstalk. So that has, I don't know if you've noted or not, but that has been turned into a series of world collectible figures
Oh, nice.
by Ben Presto. And that those are going to be publicly released. Now, the anecdote part of this is that was actually made, I think, over a year ago by Ben Presto, by their modelers, and it was presented to Oda as a gift during, I think, around the release of Gold. So I saw a picture of it back then. I was like, "Well, this is awesome! I wish you guys would release this as a figure, for consumers." And finally, it's going to be released as a part of a what is it, a drawing? I think a lottery. Yeah, in Japan, and there are like 3 different color variations of it that you can win. But it's expensive. It's about $150 for the lottery, and you don't know which one you're going to get. So,
How about no?
So it's not Ichiban Kuji then.
I
Gotcha.
finally get that mark.
It is Ichiban Kuji. It's the same thing, but like they're doing it online. It's some new thing they're doing. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of this color spread?
Similar to what Steven was saying, like I'm so used to these sort of like rankings, color spreads having a certain kind of like formula to them where like the most popular characters are like biggest and most up front. And I was just like, when I first saw this, and kind of knowing the context, I was like, oh man, Doflamingo, what is he, like number 2? But
I don't know how he got in the top 20, but that's for another day. Yes. So
I like the fact that Boa is coddling Luffy like that. Just because, I mean, for the Luffy Nami crowd, they might be riding a dragon, but it looks more to me like a sinking ship.
I literally hear the clock ticking in the background after that.
I'm just kidding.
I thought you were going to say she's going to be riding the dragon.
Oh,
Nice.
Oh,
The rubber dragon.
Okay. I don't even know. I don't even know.
Good night,
Yes,
everybody.
you do. Yes, you do.
So let's talk about the actual popularity poll. Let's go around. Are there any characters you are happy, upset about, or surprised about? Dennis, why don't
I
you
literally
start?
just.
In the top 20 or just an altogether?
In the top 20.
I'm pleasantly surprised that Reiju ranked in the top 20. That's awesome. And I guess I'm still surprised that Marco's that high.
Roger?
Those are my 2.
Yeah.
Cavendish
tied with
being at
Frankie.
13.
Yeah, the Cavendish is the weird one here.
Especially above Brook. Like, that's the biggest thing to me that shocks me. And I'm glad the Americans got it right with their results, because Brook is number 4 on the English results. And on this poll, he's 19, below Cavendish, below Reiju, below Crocodile, below Doflamingo, but below Corazon. Brook has done so many amazing things during this arc. He took on Big Mom. He used his Soul King powers. He stole the rubbing of the poneglyph. He broke the Mother Carmel photo. And you're telling me he does not belong in the top 10?
all of
But
that happen
Boa,
after they
a.k.a.
started
Miss
the poll,
Overrated
though?
Woman. No, the poll.
No,
No,
the poll was
the poll
after.
came
Yeah.
out. Yes, the poll was after. And so to see Boa, a.k.a. Miss Little Miss Overrated, in number 10, still where she was last time when she did nothing after the last poll either, I was infuriated. I still cannot believe they did Brook dirty like that in Japan. I'm salty.
A popularity contest is not a meritocracy. Brooke deserves like number 1 or 2 here.
Where's
but...
Bartolomeo? Why is Cavendish ranked? Hey, Greg?
Yeah. Bartolomeo was like 20 spots down. I'm actually looking. Yeah. So Bartolomeo was number 9 and Cavendish was number 27. And this time Cavendish is 13 and Bartolomeo is 29. So
I'm glad Cat Viper's in the top 30 at least. Barely. Barely.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, are there any that you're happy about, sad about, surprised about?
One more thing about the illustration. Sorry.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah.
Check out Marco. He's wearing his shirt seems to say Whitebeard. The right side says, or his right side says white, and the other side says beard. And underneath that, you can just barely make out. It looks like the Whitebeard pirate skull. You can see the characteristic mustache there.
It's a different crossbones.
It looks slightly different, but I think, since the shirt says Whitebeard, I think we're definitely going for that. I don't know about the 72. I don't know if that's a particular type of drink or not. But anyway, about the ranking, ever since a few years ago, I try to keep my comments on the character polling to no comment, just because I know some details about them. So no comment on the characters. That
Steven.
Not mysterious at all.
Let's see. I like that Rocinante was on the top 20 and that he edged out Doflamingo. I thought that was rather poetic. Let's see. Sir Crocodile still holding strong. I think he was our number 1 villain, right, in our rankings that we did this year.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
and I think he's still showing it in this popularity poll. Having been out of the story for so long and still very popular.
How is Frankie rated so low? I don't get it.
I think he's just too loud, I feel like, for Japan.
Well,
same thing with
American. Most top are all like kind of like, for the most part, like kind of like beautiful people, like
pretty boys.
Like these sort of like, that's not to. Hey, I think Frankie is a very beautiful person, but like, I just you're sort of typical like Bishoujo or Bishonen or whatever, like beautiful person.
Let's put this in perspective. There are people, in order to vote for this, you need to have purchased volume, I think, 85, and sent in a proof of purchase of 85, possibly also some proof of purchases from Jump, the magazine as well. And then you send them in with your vote, and those get tallied. On the Japanese, not auction, but kind of like a flea market site, Merukari, people were selling batches of these things that they would buy in stock, and they were selling them for very, very high prices. And people would buy them. They're all sold out. They would be sold out almost instantly because of the people who want to buy the Pretty Boy characters and vote for them. So that's just kind of what you're working against here with any character.
I was curious, really. I don't know if any of you guys might be able to provide some insight on this, but what's up with Falafra being at 47? Like, is that he's above so many of the characters?
I know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
That's excellent. From the Hokotate episode, the second Hokotate episode that I was on, there was the carpenter who was obsessed with Nami, and he is, fans are so different here. They have their own like clubhouse like groups, like you would make like a circle of friends when you were in elementary school and be like, yeah, we're the Sandlot or something, I don't know, right? You'd make up your like group of friends. They do that as adults, and his group is like the Ponyglyph, and like his whole shtick is that like he thinks falafel is awesome, and obviously like it's such an old joke, like it's okay, all right, like he's a nothing character and you think he's great, all right, but year after year he's like, falafel's awesome, he's super cool. So he's got his entire group of I think like 50 or something members, and they all vote for falafel and all of these things. So because that's kind of like their trademark. So
yeah, it's like a meme.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, that's what I had assumed it was, but I wasn't sure. And that's kind of what I thought about Cavendish too, because Cavendish's whole thing is, he wants to be popular. So I assumed it was just people voted for Cavendish like as a joke, and that's how I ended up so high. It makes no sense.
No, he's pretty enough to get real votes, I think.
So is that is Falafel like our version of Mitch, or what other characters?
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters in One Piece, hands down. Or Strawberry.
He's probably like their Morgans.
Oh God, yeah, Morgan's is actually the podcast favorite. Let's be fair.
Yeah,
hands down. Not even feathers down. Not even close.
When was Morgan's was introduced? Probably at the time the poll started going, right?
Yeah,
so, like, I don't think Morgan's was on here.
No, I don't think he was.
He'd be top 5 easy.
Easy in the United States. If we do another poll in America, Morgan's better be number 1. I don't care, or at least number 2. It better happen anyway.
I was surprised by Ein from Film Z.
Yeah, no kidding.
Top 50. That's amazing.
So what else? What else is there to talk about this top?
Smoker and Tashiki getting the same number of votes. That's a good one.
I love that.
That's poetic.
It's really cool.
I had a comment about the color spread.
Yes.
And I'm gonna. So I'm kind of intrigued by the part that's Sabo and Ace like yelling at Shanks, seeming very upset at him, and I'm gonna say what I think it might be, and then you guys can correct me with whatever the obvious thing I'm missing is. But like they're both touching their hats, and are they like yelling at him about how their hats are better than straw hats or something like that? I don't know.
That's really astute. That's a good call.
Yeah. Nice.
Maybe he tried removing their hats and then putting them back on their heads, like in the.
he put them on both of their heads and said, "Bring this back to me."
Yeah.
Well, I know from that DVD that Oda did for what was the Jump Ryu, he was talking about how he like imagines this scene, I think, happening in each of his pictures. So I'm sure there's something interesting happening there that one day we'll find out.
Crocodile's all like trying to catch up. He's flying over there.
No other ideas. Like Greg, do you?
No, that's actually a really good point. It could also be. I mean, I like the fact that they're touching the hats is excellent. So it's probably like, yeah, it doesn't look as good as a straw hat, though, right? You can totally see that. It's totally natural. He could also, I don't know, be saying like, well, I have to fight Luffy or something like that, right? He's like, yeah, I got to fight him. He's coming to get me, so whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really good point. Man, every time you think you've seen everything in a color spread, somebody else, jeez.
That's
why amazing.
That's why we do the podcast.
That's the one part of the spread that doesn't quite make any sense to me. I do like Law's salmon outfit, by the way. It looks good. I like it better than the black.
I also kind of like Reiju I fucking Cavendish. She's digging.
Now we know Reiju's type. Yeah.
I'm really shocked Reiju actually didn't make top 10. I thoroughly thought she was going to get number 10 instead of Hancock. That was another kind of big surprise to me. I thought like she was more popular than I guess she is.
Yeah, I'm shocked Hancock stayed there. I think we were predicting. Someone asked us, I think last week, where do you think people are? I thought we all thought Hancock would drop a little bit at least, but she's exactly the same.
I'm also kind of surprised too with Zoro and Sanji, because the last one, Law, correct me if I'm wrong, was number 2, right?
Yes.
And so Law dropped from 2 to 4, and Law's been gone as long as Zoro's been gone, and yet Sanji's number 3, despite the fact that this is like really his arc. So I'm curious if people are just like really, really hyped to see Zoro again, like, and they're getting that pre-Wano excitement, or
I think people just like Zoro.
They just like Zoro, yeah.
It is nice that the top 3 are Straw Hats.
For sure.
Yeah. Anyway, just quickly for the American votes here. Luffy won first, then Zoro, Sanji, Brook, Law, Nami, Robin, Ace, Shanks, and Usopp rounds out the top 10.
A boy! Sorry.
Sam would be happy to know Carrot got number 11 on that, and Jinbei number 12. Jinbei did really well on both, like surprisingly well. I'm happy to see that. We didn't really talk about that. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we could get into the chapter.
Hawkins made the top 20 for the American poll.
Yeah,
that was
strange.
Yeah, that is.
He's done nothing, and he's done like nothing.
There's a Hawkins contingent in the United States. It's the same exact thing.
It's falafel.
It's falafel. Hawkins is just as obscure.
One of the One Piece YouTubers must have made some video saying vote for Hawkins.
Oh, you know what? Yes. Anyway,
I didn't see the actual poll like form for this, so I don't know how they got so many votes, but I almost imagine that it was like, okay, we got to fill out as many names as we possibly can, and then at the end they just had like Hawkins, and then after that was like other, write in your own ideas or whatever. So he was just like the random name that they picked to fill out the poll, and so he ended up with a whole bunch of votes or something like that, because it just seems so random because he has not been a part of the story at all, really.
We will do a real push for Morgans next time for the next popular. I like, not even kidding. We will. I don't care who comes up next.
I'm surprised Chopper and Frankie are solo, to be honest. Especially Chopper.
I was shocked Frankie was solo,
but especially Frankie.
Yeah, especially Frankie.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially Chopper.
Ed, let's get on with the chapter.
Yep. So, man, Big Mom looks really cool here. She's taking her hat off. She's wearing the do-rag, got the big hair flying at the back, riding in the cloud, and she's like pulling her sword behind her. And Straw Hat's got, it's Big Mom. She's already here. And the homies are like, Mama's in the front line, but look at her. Something's wrong with her. Or that's not homies. That's some of the minor members of the Charlotte family. Do we know their names? The little kid and the weird hair guy.
No, but
they're just
they've shown up a bunch.
Forces of Rage or whatever you want to call them.
The sheep guy?
Yeah.
So, no way. And Big Mom says, my wedding cake. Taste the spear of Elbaf. The spear of Elbaf, you say? And she got the crazy eyes. Luffy looked over his shoulder in Surprise. Go to the next page.
Dennis.
Next page, everyone is trying to prepare for the attack. Something's coming! Watch out, King Bomb! And Big Mom takes a swipe. Everyone looks in shock and awe and trying to figure out what's going to happen. And we see a new attack, Ikoku Sovereignty. And it looks like kind of a... I'm not sure. We'll have to have Steven translate.
All right. So I apologize. This is probably way longer than anyone actually wants to know about this, but this is.
Yeah, Ikoku is a measure of land, isn't it?
No. So I kind of got screwed on this by the old translation because as we'll see in a page. Sorry to spoil this, but this is based off of what Dorian Broggie did at the end of Little Garden, where they smashed the giant hole through the giant fish, and in Japanese what they called that was hakoku, and that was spelled with kanji. It's not an actual word in Japanese, but kind of similar to how we have Latin roots and stuff. You can you can get a picture of what he was meaning by that. And what you have is ha is the word for conquer. It's actually the same ha that's in hockey, although I wouldn't read too far into that. And then koku is country, so it could be like conquering country, or conquering a country, or a conquered country, or whatever. And I think what happened was that the translator Conquer's Quest, yeah. Conquer's bad for a day. What the translator did, and I'm not sure if they were like offering different options or whatever, and then they just all got put in there, is they translated it as Hakoku Sovereignty, so in other words, like they just took the Japanese word, left it as it was, and then wrote a possible definition for it next to it. And it doesn't really explain that like the one is supposed to mean the other or anything like that. So it's kind of like the worst of both worlds, really, because but whatever. It's, who could have known that 70 volumes later it was going to form a pattern with another name thing. But because it is specifically called out as like, oh, that's the same thing the Giants did, I was like, okay, well, I kind of have to have this match the pattern of the old thing. And so what Big Mom says is ikoku, which is similar. It's a thing she made up, or Oda made up. But it's like powerful country, or a mighty country, authority country, sort of thing. And so I just kind of went off the pattern. Me and Alexi talked about it. I guess he did. I came up with some alternates that could be like ikoku, like dominion or something like that. Some other similar type of name. But I guess we just went with the pattern. But yeah, I apologize if it is kind of weird, but my hands were sort of tied on that one because of the context to the old material there. So there you go. That's the explanation.
Look,
we'll just wait for the retranslation when we get all the hardcovers, like the JoJo's.
There you go. Ready for that, Stephen? As long as it's fun to yell out loud at a playground, I feel like you're doing the right thing, and this seems to fit that. Dennis,
it did definitely stand out as like it didn't sound like a Steven translation type thing.
Right? Yeah, no,
yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for letting us know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can finish off the page. Yeah.
There's a giant chunk taken out of King Bomb, and we see that everyone riding on top of him has somehow managed to dodge. And we see the rest of the destruction that happened in the remaining panels. There's a giant hole left in the mountain. We see like the land carved underneath in the ground, and just a loud kaboom reverberating throughout Whole Cake Island
into the ocean.
Yeah, that is intense. That's a Dragon Ball Z, level attack.
Yeah. I wanted to note while we're still on this page, in that Ikoku Sovereignty panel, like those speed lines get thick. Like on the other side, those are some like seriously thick speed lines. Like I'm not used to seeing them zoomed up that much.
Mm-hmm. It's so thick.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. But yeah. I just think it looks really interesting and cool and designy.
We go to the next page as we see everyone is shocked as to what just happened, and as Steven intimated, Luffy recognizes that it looks just like the attack the Giants used, but why? I would not have remembered that. I guess for Luffy, For Luffy, it's been 2 years and like 6 months, maybe. But even then, like, come on. I didn't realize.
Let's remember they were catapulted through a gigantic island-eating fish.
But also, Greg, to be fair, they go through that kind of weird stuff like every day.
Yeah.
But in a perfect circle, Zach, does that happen?
Not as much. You do make a fair point. Thank you, Greg. So we then have a zoom in. Big Mom just looks awesome here. As Ed mentioned, the bandana wearing, no pupilled, hair raising Big Mom, readying herself to get King Baum here. And King Baum is not in good shape. But he is a homie, so he could survive a lot, but let's see just how much a lot is this chapter. So he is, please forgive Tree, I am being threatened. There's a lot of, get ready, it gets worse.
Better.
It gets better.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Better is the word I was looking for. No, I like everyone here love terrible puns to death. Anyway, Luffy realizes another one is about to happen, so let's get down there and fight. But Nami's like, no, I have an idea. I mean, she doesn't say that, but that's what she does. And she says, wait, King Bomb, who was that girl earlier? Was it your girlfriend? And we have a little panel of the lady tree from earlier doing some sort of like, what do you call this? A cha-cha dance?
Seduction pose.
It's like a come hither.
Looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Come with
Expect her high on the next character popularity poll.
She better be up there. I'm trying to think of a word that combines syrup and siren, but I'll leave that to Steven. Anyway, we find out that she is his fiancé.
Yes!
Yay!
Did you guys all just yay that? And there are sappy tears running from this sappy moment, sappy eyes. And Nami says, so in that case, you've got a reason to live. Gasp! King Baum realizes that indeed he has a reason to live. And says, I can't give up and let my bow break now. Stephen on fire this chapter, clearly. Mm-hmm. And almost the same panel from the previous page, in the same place as the previous page. We have Big Mom right behind King Baum as he now has motivation to run faster. And Pedro realizing that, I believe Nami is who he's referencing here, is like a slave driver as she orders him to run. And Luffy said, look, it's no use, we can't avoid the next one. And Luffy just wanted to get out there to stop her. And Nami's like, no, I have a plan. And we see Big Mom winding up there, King Bao making the best face of the chapter, and Luffy asking, well, what is it? Greg?
Now, you may not know this, but at the start of the episodes, before we start recording, Zach usually asks us, do you have any preference for the pages, what pages you want to read? And I'm the one who never says anything. I just like, yeah, whatever, anything's fine. This is the first time I've ever said, I want to read this page. And I'll tell you why. The reason I want to read this page is black balls. So Nami starts manipulating these black balls. And I mean, she's popping these black balls like there's no tomorrow. and Zeus, he has an interest in these black balls. So he takes interest in them because they contain lightning. And, of course, and Big Mom winds up for another attack. She goes down, but whoop, Zeus comes right out from underneath her because his attention has been caught by the black balls. And on the next page, he starts popping black balls like they're milk duds. And
he's got the munchies.
I can't name the episode that, Greg. This is a little much.
Now both Napoleon and Prometheus are taken back by this because it's surprising that someone like Zeus would did I call him Zeus? Sorry, Zeus. Okay, good. And they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, well, these are good." And he's completely transfixed by them. And now they have their opportunity to get away. So they're heading for the seducing woods.
And yes, they are. That's what they want to get to, the seducing woods, because the King Baum, he's the king tree. He's the guy who runs the woods, and all of the trees who apparently are not sensing that Big Mom is nearby. They're just like, oh, hey, there's King Baum, and they all snap to attention. You see a couple salutes there as they clear a path for King Baum. And you can see, oh, there it is. There's the Sunny right there. It's a straight shot to the coast, as Pedro says. And everybody is celebrating. Carrot is giving Nami a little squeeze, that it was an amazing plan. And, Sanji is back in his element, fawning over Nami as well. So, basically, as long as Big Mom doesn't just hop right back on Zeus, they should be fine now. And Nami is, okay, so its name is Zeus. And Jinbei explains that the cloud is created from Mama's soul, and then there he is. It's like she fed the dog, and now the dog is, now she's his mama. Hey, I'm Zeus, and everyone is shocked because, of course, this is an extremely powerful homie here with a very large serving of Mama's soul. But he just wants more of those black balls. He wants those little lightning clouds. Can I have some more of those? And Nami seems a little surprised that the black balls were as tasty as Zeus finds them, and he's raving about the electric mouth feel of these balls. And
on crack.
I really, Nami, how do you get your black balls so sweaty?
This feels like the most Rick and Morty scene in One Piece ever. I like the mouthfeel of those electric balls.
He just wants some more. You got some more? You got a little something for me? And Luffy is poking Zeus, okay, interesting. This cloud's pretty tough. Okay, all right, forget the balls. Give us a ride. But only Mama can ride him because she gave me her soul. And so Luffy's immediately, oh, okay, so you're just a cloud, just a boring cloud. Never mind. But Nami, of course, ever the opportunist, she senses her ploy here. Okay, Zeus, will you be my servant? And she turns on the charm, gives him the big eyes, and I will, says Sanji. And Jinbei, no, she wasn't asking you. So pretty good. I like the way that he did that with the bubble kind of leaning over the panel a little bit. So if you weren't looking at Sanji, you might think that it was Zeus saying that, and then, oh no, it's just Sanji. It's pretty good.
And Sanji's really back. Dennis.
So Nami tries to further entice the offering, you could have black balls to eat every single day. And Zeus is really thinking it over. He's like, oh, it sounds pretty good. I don't know what Big Mom's going to say. And Jinbei is, pretty amazed by what is actually happening, saying no loyalty to the boss, huh? So
what's wrong with Mama's balls?
Apparently they're not as shockingly tasty, I guess. So Nami also comments about how earlier Zeus was able to use his powers to completely cover the sky. And Zeus is also getting, getting a lot of flattery with this thing. Oh, you think so? No one's ever said that about me. Of course, we have to get to the antagonist coming back. And Big Mom interrupts this nice conversation and yells at the seducing woods to stop them right now. And everyone all the trees and stuff just sort of freeze, sort of in shock. I guess getting
some good oh shit faces.
Yeah, uh-oh. And now Zeus comments how mad Mama is, and now we see all the seducing woods turn shock into anger, and there looks like they are definitely going to attack all of our heroes again. Luffy yells out, they're back to being annoying again, and Sanji wants to know why can't we just smash them and just move forward? But of course, we don't want a retread of what happened when Luffy, Nami, and Carrot enter the seducing woods from before, and Luffy remembers how annoying that was. And King Baum also comments that we cannot disobey an order from the queen. But on the other brand,
I feel like I've never seen Luffy with this kind of like, oh crap face. It's just the Seducing Woods were that annoying to him and many of the readers.
Yeah, I like the term annoying rather than like, oh no, we're gonna be in serious danger. He's just kind of like, those things are so annoying.
Yeah.
Accurate read. Joey.
Yeah, and so on the other branch, King Baum says, out of the way, as he goes charging through, kicking and swatting away the rest of the Seducing Woods. And he says, this isn't the day King Baum turns into lumber. And the other Seducing Woods homies can't believe that he's betraying Mama. But then a big shadow is cast over Baum's face as Prometheus descends upon him, and he's looking real nasty at this point, looking like a big
Mario 3 son angry right there.
Yeah, there you go.
or like those Final Fantasy bomb guys when they get real big right before they're gonna blow up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he's right at that point, the blowing up point. He says, you've decided to betray Mama, and King Baum thinks for a second maybe about kind of pleading with him, but just says, Lord Prometheus, and then our heroes bail. They don't treat King Baum with quite the amount of reverence that they do the rest of their friends, I think.
It's still Mama's soul. It's not real.
Yeah. So they get out of the way, and we get this great couple of panels where you really see man, Prometheus's eyes look like crazy and spinny, and so do King Baum. So I guess that's maybe a homie trait, but and then Prometheus brings himself down, dunking on King Baum super hard, bringing the Genki Dama down, and everything is. And then here we are, the first in-universe character death since Ace, right? Or Whitebeard. No, we have
Charlotte Moscato, Minister of Gelato.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
You're right.
I was gonna say I don't even know if this guy's dead, considering he was sliced in half before.
He was never alive to begin with.
Yeah, no, I feel like King Baum probably has a future with his lady tree. He'll just be kind of a
burnt up.
They'll find a little wood chip of him and put him in a little potted plant.
A little baby Baum.
He's going to turn over a new leaf.
Oh, baby Baum. Oh, imagine the pop.
Oh, Greg,
finals.
I love that. I think I was the only one who heard it, and I'm very happy you said it.
Baby Groot.
He's going to turn over a new leaf.
Oh,
That's
it. But yeah, so our heroes flee from this awesome panel of King Baum totally being incinerated, and Luffy, who's the guy who can remember the giant's attacks, but not this guy's name, just yells out "tree." And but then approaching out of this, in this wake of this destruction, is Big Mom, and she's looking badder than ever, with the shadows and the swirly eyes and drool and her tongue hanging out, and she's just saying, "Wedding cake."
Yeah, so things are looking pretty bad for the Straw Hats right now in Seducing Woods. And we cut away to Sweet City, where a bunch of the subordinates of Big Mom are hanging out, and they're going, what about Beige? Well, we'll catch up to him soon enough. I see flames in the Seducing Woods. Well, Mama must be in battle right now. And then we cut to the Mirror World, where we see everyone's favorite, well, she's not a minister, she's just the daughter, Brule, saying, Mirror World coming in. Brother Montdor, you've got 10,000 soldiers at your beck and call, ready to appear anywhere at any time. Wee. And you could see Perospero, Daifuku, and some of the other characters in the background within the Mirror World as well. And Montdor responds, good. I'll get in touch later. Chocolate, cheese, nuts, battleships from those islands. Keep an eye on the southwest coast and don't let the Straw Hats set sail. And they're all going, yes, sir. Get a cool little panel, actually, of the different tart ships. The one that's labeled number 4, another one 13. And Montdor is basically planning everything out right now, saying, all right, you guys will be the first line of security. After that, I want the tart ships from Flavor and Liqueur Island. And I know we talked about this on the show before, but I feel like if I was going to live on any of the islands of Whole Cake, I think Liqueur might be the best choice. That is a pretty solid choice for an island.
I'm really curious as to what the hell Flavor Island is.
It's Marlboro country.
Oh yeah.
That's where they.
Your parents, what that is.
That's where they grow the tobacco.
Oh my gosh.
Flavor
Well,
country.
maybe Sanji will end up going there at some point, get another cigarette before the thing ends. But basically, Montdor tells them all to be on standby, ready to move, and that wait until you hear the warning signal from the territory sea slugs. Remember those guys in the beginning of the arc? And we then cut to the Thousand Sunny on the southwest coast of the island, and somebody is saying the woods sure are noisy. Makes sense. Mama's chasing them herself. Their chances of making it here are 0. Indeed. And you see some of the chess peacekeepers coming out of the mirror. I really like the detail on that shot. You could just see them sort of jumping out. And we get this crocodile guy saying, well, then that begs the question, why are we waiting for them here? And then we see our boy, that guy, #Jellybean Boys, Katakuri, sitting there like a badass saying, we're waiting here just in case. Doom, doom.
Just in case. I imagine he sounds like Rex Banner in that scene.
I'd hope. Ed, finish this off.
Anyway, so we're different scene. So the Tart tanks, they're firing, and we can hear. Oh, it's Capone. We can hear him say, "Great, they brought the Tart tanks. We're almost to the coast. They won't catch up." And then someone comes in off the side. Brother Bedge, whoa, you scared me. Puddin'. You think I spare any mercy for little goyles? I need to talk to Sister Chiffon. Bring her out here right now. And then I love the Odabucks inside of Beige. That's just how it is. And wondering, Pudding, why are you here? Mama's having her hunger pangs again, and you need a chiffon cake from me? I'm sorry, Pudding. Just like Lola, I'm leaving this place. Whatever happens to Mama and this country isn't my concern. There, got that? Now get lost, Pudding. It's not that. The real reason I'm doing this isn't for Mama, Pudding says, or for the sake of the country. We have to stop Mama before she kills him and all of his friends. Acting! Yes! Very good acting in this
Well,
chapter.
we'll discuss that a little more in depth, I'm sure. But first, I want to hear everyone's thoughts on the chapter. Greg, I want to start with you.
Sure. Well, it was really nice getting to know a little bit more about King Bong, but I think I've had my chlorophyll of him for now.
Hey.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure he will be back into the story at some point, and I think he will work with Mom because I don't think he's one to arbor a grudge.
Oh my God. Were you just planning these?
I had a pun contest at work, and the topic was tree, so I can keep going. But
he was planting them, not planning them.
That's right.
Planting the seeds. I don't know. Pretty good movement chapter. I mean, it literally is a movement chapter. I mean, we have chapters that move the story along where there is no physical movement, but this was literally and figuratively one that did exactly that, and it's good. It has some good moments for Nami that make perfect sense. I mean, we knew that Big Mom was a weather queen, so we knew that Nami was going to be involved in that somehow. Good to see movement on that end. I'd like to see more. Ultimately, I'd like to see, and I talked about this a long time ago, I think in one of my articles, but I want to see like the entirety of Totland in chaos. I want to see darkness covering the land and fire and just absolute chaos when Mom goes insane. I mean, she is insane right now, but I mean, when she really loses it, when we're in the final Jeopardy here. I hope we get some of that. And I don't know. I mean, as long as the next chapter is a really exciting, big chapter, I think a chapter like this is forgivable. Where there's not too much going on. It's our tertiary characters are getting featured, besides Nami's moment, of course. So yeah, that's what I hope we're in store for. Not bad, but I have high expectations.
I think Big Mom gets to show off a lot in this chapter. Just her power and I'm being impressed by her continually, just by like her tenacity and her like crazy rage. It's interesting to see where that'll go.
Ed, what were your thoughts since you're going?
Oh well, that was pretty much the unique thing I had. But I did want to say about Pudding that I really like. I think she's really working this acting thing. Like, there's no other way she was gonna get anything from Chiffon. She wasn't gonna get. I don't think she was gonna get anything from Chiffon by threatening her. Like,
God.
especially not with like coming to her in her like fortress, despite being they're being chased.
I want to save the pudding discussion for the end so it doesn't cloud the rest of the discussion, because I know we're just going to talk about it for 20 minutes no matter what.
Right.
So we'll go back to that. Yeah.
But I do like the idea of Katakuri being competent again. But yeah, I like him being the backup plan, because you always need a backup plan, because we saw what happened the last time. Yeah, and my big mom like overtaking the seducing woods. Like it is weird how they didn't notice her first, but like the way she made them snap to attention like that was pretty cool. I'm just impressed by Big Mom's power, and that's really sort of the running away from that is just basically this whole chapter. But it's an impressive thing.
Dennis.
I also thought this chapter was just okay. Like what Greg said, I did love that they had Nami use her weather abilities against Zeus and stuff, and I was hoping that there would be a little bit more interaction with that, but I like what we got. I also, like what Ed said, enjoyed Big Mom's badassness and just being like the juggernaut pretty much in this chapter. It was kind of annoying that we had to go back through the seducing woods, but I'm glad that they definitely put a squash on that before it got anywhere. That is the hottest teabag ever, from Prometheus to King Baum. The ending is what concerned me most for this chapter, but I'll wait till we get to talk about the ending for that segment.
Roger, what did you think of this chapter?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I saw a lot of the negative reaction on Twitter, and I was kind of surprised. I get where people are coming from, because again, it is sort of focusing on the side characters, but I loved seeing Big Mom go all in with Prometheus and dropping him from the sky like this crazy bomb, and just seeing everybody in the entire forest incinerated. It was a really cool panel, and I think Oda did a great job with stuff that was drawn in the background in a lot of these panels too, like that one I brought up with the chess piece soldiers coming out of the mirror, and I just think there were a lot of cool details in the art this week. And I really admired that about it. And then I guess the one thing that no one's talked about yet that I'm super excited for was that little bit of a teaser with Katakuri waiting on the Thousand Sunny. Because to me, I feel like if they were smart, they would just destroy the ship. Like, why are they even waiting on the ship? They should just break the ship.
I thought the same thing, yeah.
That's the very first thing they should do. So him waiting on the ship says to me that I think this is sort of setting up for an eventual Luffy versus Katakuri final confrontation during this arc, because realistically the only like child of Big Mom's that's done anything significant, especially during the wedding, has been him. And I feel like every big arc usually ends with some type of fight where Luffy's going one-on-one against an opponent, and we've already seen him beat Cracker during this arc, and we already know there's no way he'd be able to take on Big Mom one-on-one. And even with everybody in the woods right now, they're running away from her. So I've always been of the theory that Greg brought up, which is that a character is going to make a cake to calm down Big Mom, and that basically Luffy's going to have to distract the other children around there. I don't know where Sanji's going to come into play with all this pudding chiffon stuff, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I do think that maybe the main opponent for Luffy at the end of all this is Katakuri. And considering the fact Katakuri is still a Yonko commander and is one of the strongest characters we've seen during this arc, I think that'd be a pretty cool accomplishment for him.
Joey.
Yeah, I thought this was a fine chapter. I'm not really negative on it, but like, yeah, I thought it was fine overall. I enjoyed reading it. One thing that we passed over briefly that I wanted to point out is actually my favorite panel, just because of the drawings, is the part where Pudding comes down and scares Beige. And he has this like really hilarious look on his face, and his hat's boinging off of his head, and I don't know, and the like doofy look on the carpet's face and everything. I just really love that drawing and the composition and everything. And I like the one following it where she's peering inside of him, because his powers are so weird and kind of confusing to actually think about. It's kind of nice to have a little bit of interaction between the inside and outside world depicted like that. But yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, I really liked the art on the pages that I recapped. I think Prometheus looks really cool. I like that effect with the shading, with the tones, and then also the like actual shading that Oda does with the black pen work is really awesome looking, and that panel where King Baum's being destroyed is like really, really great looking. And so there's definitely stuff to like about this, but it doesn't particularly stand out other than just kind of a fun chapter.
Steven.
It was a setup chapter, I guess. There were some fun shenanigans, but the stuff that I liked, the things that I took away from this chapter that I liked were the kind of him kind of filling in some of the details, like those last the 2 pages with all of the family stuff. Like after all of the kind of nonsense that went down with them and the general their inability to respond in the moment when everything kind of went crazy on top of the chateau. I feel like this was a good recovery chapter where they're like, okay, now we got the soldiers going here and there. They had, they mentioned like the sea slugs and stuff, like in case it wasn't, in case like the sort of laws of dramatic inevitability didn't make it clear. It's like this chapter really tells you that they're not going to just get on their ship and just sail away the way that, like Capone kind of made it sound when they split up, a chapter or 2 ago. I thought that was that was nice, and it kind of bookended like the confrontation that is almost certain to happen. And when Roger mentioned like why don't they just burn the ship sort of thing, like it occurred to me, I was thinking about that while you guys were talking, and I was like, you really like you hardly ever see that used as a plot device in One Piece, and so I feel like it's just something that Oda doesn't like to do as a threat, like destroying other guys' ships. I don't know if it's some sort of kind of unwritten rule that he has, or if there's like
it's an honor code between
them. Right. Or who knows? Like maybe you can't burn the Thousand Sunny because it's got too, its wood is too special or whatever. There could be a number of different reasons for that. But I did like the kind of ambiguous foreshadowing of Katakuri being there, where he's like, just in case, because it's like, okay, the chances of making it here are 0, and yet here's the guy who can see the future saying, yeah, I'm just going to be here just in case. Like, okay, he probably senses that, something could happen. I think that's an interesting point. And
what is the just in case? Is it referring to Big Mom rampaging, or is it referring to the Straw Hats specifically?
Because they're on the Straw Hats ship, so I would assume it's just in case the Straw Hats get away, because he somehow he's divining that there's a good chance that they may actually get away. Which, hey, it's One Piece, so sure, I think they will.
Yeah.
But
probably.
It's the details of how that will happen and where everything will be configured is kind of up in the air at this point. And then I don't know. Should we talk about the?
I'll just give my 2 cents, and then very quickly, and then we'll talk about the last hanging fruit here. So first I want to say I really like how Oda's kind of bringing things full circle to take it from Greg earlier. We started out in the Seducing Woods. I think the anime is in the Seducing Woods at the moment, and we're kind of ending, or at least bringing this climax here in the same place. So it's kind of cool how he's been bringing everything together. And in that spirit, I was extremely happy to see King Baum again, because I get to hear Steven's fantastic, terrible puns again. So that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed this chapter. And the other reason I enjoyed it was I really liked what they did with Zeus, besides acting like a high cloud. Take that as you want. For most of the arc, I think it's nice giving him a little bit of personality aside. Also happens to be gluttonous, much like who he got his soul from, so that's not super surprising. Those are probably the highlights I had for this chapter. The rest of it you guys kind of discussed, setting things up like we're not in a much better situation than we were when we fell off of the cake at the beginning. And the first time I read this chapter, I was pretty iffy on it. I think, as always, when I do a manga recap with you guys, it always, makes it more exciting and funny, and so I've warmed up to it a little bit. I think especially Prometheus was a surprise highlight of this chapter, and I'm curious to see how this all comes together. So I think we should probably talk about the last thing that we want to talk about: good pudding or bad pudding. We've had this debate. We've had this debate a lot. I want to see if anyone else agrees with Ed. Ed, you think she's bad pudding still?
I think that it's more likely because there's no actually getting Chiffon to help make a cake unless she makes Chiffon want to do it. There's no, I don't think there's any threatening her into actually doing it.
But a lady's eyes never lie.
But Chiffon is also a lady.
What?
She can't be fooled.
Steven, good pudding, bad pudding.
All right. Well, I guess I'll lay it out like this: is on for the evidence for the good pudding side, I think is that Oda has a recent track record of some of the kind of like lady characters or certain side characters introduced in an arc who seem like they're really interesting, and then they end up having kind of a boring development over the course of it, or some kind of disappointing thing that where it's like, why did that you could have been a cooler character. And so I feel like that is the danger. That would be the good pudding, like that she's really fallen in love with Sanji, that this is an honest reaction. The bad pudding, which is actually the side that I'm leaning towards, is the like whenever, especially in manga, I've noticed that this is especially true. But whenever you establish that a character is a master actor, then you always have to distrust what their seemingly emotional performance is meant to tell you. So from what we know of Pudding, it's super duper easy for her to turn on the waterworks and to do this sort of thing. So my gut check is that my gut take is that she's manipulating Chiffon here, and I don't take this as necessarily a tell that she really is in love with Sanji, but it's it could go either way. It's very ambiguous.
So we got two bad puddings. Let's see, Joey.
My gut is telling me good pudding at the moment. It just seems that we've bounced back and forth enough times that it seems like it's almost just time to settle, Yeah. And something about that last panel, I don't know exactly what it is, but something about putting, this is Putting, Luffy, Sanji's face, like as the sort of spectral thing rather than her out and out saying we have to save Sanji. Like something about that just reads to me as more like sincere and like it's coming from her mind. But that could just be a trick, that Oda's laying on us.
I would do want to point out there's a translation thing here that in the original Japanese, what she says, she refers to him as Anohito, which means like that person, and which is very vague, but it's the sort of like sort of shy and reserved like Japanese romantical speak that you'll see in a lot of like sort of classic Japanese style romance stories, like any J drama or whatever, like you'll probably see some sort of speech like that, which seemed very, very typical for a statement of that nature. And actually, when I first saw that, like I didn't initially notice, like as I was looking at the dialogue, I didn't initially notice the drawing of Sanji in the corner, and so at first I thought. My first reaction was like, oh, maybe Oda's doing like maybe this is a serious reaction, but it's going to turn out to be some kind of twist where she's thinking of like some other member of the Straw Hats that she's secretly fallen in love with,
she's
or
Luffy.
Right, something some weird twist like that. And so I wasn't sure. I was like, oh crap, am I going to have to like, try to find a more vague way of writing this? And then I noticed Sanji and I was like, okay, so I can just use him and have that, then you get that from the picture, the visual context. So that might play into that somewhat, but I do think it is interesting the way that he chose to draw Sanji there. I guess to emphasize the feeling or whatever.
Yeah, and that puts to bed a kind of thing that I was going to also bring up that was going to be somewhat grasping at straws, but to be kind of like, well, possibly the development could just be that she has grown to, respect and like Sanji, but she's not necessarily going to fall in love with him. But that description makes me think that if it is indeed good pudding, then sure enough, she's probably in love with him.
Yeah, and just to add the one little thing to throw things apart, there was that one little scene back on the top of the cake where she gasped after he caught Nami, after Sanji caught Nami. Anyway, Dennis, good pudding or bad pudding?
I'm so annoyed by the waffling that's going back and forth with her characterization. But I have to go with good pudding because of the one little snot trickle. That's like act all you can.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's something that is hard to act through. So
that's not coming straight from the heart.
Snot through the heart.
Snot through the heart. Yes, thank you.
Oh my god.
Steve will hate that one. I'm writing that down. Roger.
Yeah, I am also leaning good pudding. I am surprised none of you have brought up the one big thing that sort of sets this apart from the last time, which is that last time we saw her fake cry, she didn't have her third eye. And this time she's crying out of her third eye. And obviously, like, the people who are within Big Mom's family know that about her. But I think that's Oda's tell to the reader that she's being genuine this time. And a quick question to Steven, because you'll have read the actual original Japanese. I know sometimes at the end of the chapters, there's like a little bit of preview text of what's to come or like a summarization of the final panel.
Right.
What was that this week?
Okay, let me open my file real quick just to look at this.
While you look at that, is it also? I'm trying to think. Why would she try and convince?
Yeah. So okay. So it is her. I would say like her eyes are pleading, or her eyes are desperate, or something like that. So in other words, it's imparting that the emotion seems to be real from her eyes, or at the very least they're very not intimidating, but yeah, kind of, or very just very
sincere.
Sincere.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, then I think with all three of the eyes
though?
open.
I assume it's the editor, because that I can't imagine that they have an extra intern who writes those things. It's definitely not the author.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how much to actually take away from that. Like,
Right.
I would not take anything away from it. But,
Okay.
But I think she's going to be good. I think she's going to be good. And I also agree with Ed's statement that even if like she's lying, how else is she going to get Chiffon to work with them? Like,
right.
There's no other way. Like she's going to have to say this either way. I just feel like between the third eye crying and, like you guys said, the snot trickle, and then Sanji in the background. Also, the fact that we're seeing Sanji's face, and the last time that Pudding talked about Sanji and every other time she's referenced him, it's always been like a blacked out silhouette. And now this time we're actually seeing him. I think that maybe says something about
You know what?
situation
I'm going to have someone make a GIF. I don't have any Photoshop skills. I'm just calling out. Just put Roger's face over Charlie Brown and Pudding's over Lucy. And y'all will get what you deserve from this one.
Yeah. I agree with Dennis that, like, yes, the drama might be interesting. Like, it might give us fodder to talk about, like, week to week every time there's some new twist in the what is Pudding up to angle. But I kind of agree that it's very diminishing returns for me at this point, where I'm just like, okay, come on, let's just.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we asked this on this show?
Right,
like
right.
A lot. The only thing I just don't understand is why would she even assume that Chiffon has a relationship with the Straw Hats other than them, conveniently being on the same side during this betrayal? I mean, why would she assume there's any other deeper connection between Chiffon and Sanji, which kind of makes me lean to the good side. It's just like, I need help with this. It's a selfish reason.
See, I think it's more like I don't know that she's necessarily saying like help me, Chiffon, so that we can save the Straw Hats. I think it's more like, okay, Chiffon's position is that she doesn't care. Like she's like, I got my man, I'm out of here. You know, I'm like I have a happy marriage and a happy family and all that, and you know I can't deal with this. And Pudding is like, you know, no, I've found my, you know, I don't want him to die. This is my true love, sort of thing.
Oh,
and so
I
I think
see.
so she's more pleading to Chiffon's sense of like, you know, finding love and I guess trying to elicit that kind of sisterly sympathy in that sense. That's my take on it.
Greg, finally, good pudding or bad pudding?
As usual, I'm going to take option C, and I'm going to say confused pudding. I think that Pudding probably has Virgo syndrome, in that she's been lying so long and to so many people and in so many ways and manipulating so many people that she's having trouble knowing what she really feels. Because my whole end game for this is that things will end happily. That has been my end game for it, and it is definitely heading in that direction. But she would be so boring if she was just completely into Sanji at this point. I'm with Steven in that would be good pudding, like purely good pudding, like, oh my God, Sanji, I love you. Like, I don't mind it working up to that, but at this point still, I think that would be very weak from a storytelling perspective. So my whole end game is that she has to be good. So we're working in that direction, but I don't think we're there yet. You brought up, which is very astute, that panel with her gasping. That's so important because we don't see her eyes there. I think if we saw what her eyes looked like in that panel, we might have seen her maybe true feelings to herself in that moment. And if we knew that, because her eyes could have been angry, they could have been shocked. If we had seen that, we might have known. You know, I wonder, you know, all this talk about her eyes and stuff. When she closes that middle eye, is she technically third eye blind?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Couldn't have been. It could be any of the three, I guess. They're all the third.
I want to believe that there's going to be some kind of growth for her, because it goes back to this memory stuff, dealing with memories. I believe that Mom needs to have those memories of what happened to her, and I still want to believe that Pudding somehow had a hand in what happened with the Giants in that wedding arrangement. So I don't think she's good at this point, but I think she is in conflict right now.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a good point.
It is. Yeah, I think she's, as you said, going to do the quote unquote right thing, but that in her heart of hearts, she's still kind of conniving. She still has that spirit. I don't think just for my 2 cents, I don't think she's out for bad intent anymore. I think Sanji definitely hit a part of her psyche that she wasn't expecting when she was trying to kill him. So that puts us at 4 votes good, 2 votes bad, 1 vote confused. No one could change their votes, so that's where we're at. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks, since the entire Shonen Jump is off next week. For what I looked up, is it Mountain Day? Is that correct, Craig? Is that the holiday?
Yep. Yamanohi. Yay.
Yay. Is there anything you could tell us about that holiday, besides it's about the mountains?
It's super new. I think it just started last year. Or is this the first year? I don't even remember. But yeah, it's a new holiday, so it's another day. I don't need to use a vacation day, even though I don't have anything to do at work.
Nice. That's
so
cool.
they just had National Mountain Day in Japan, and they decided to make it a federal holiday. Like, when are we going to get National Donut Day off, or National Pizza Day?
Pirate Day.
Yeah.
Well,
we've got National Sea Day. We've got National Mountain Day. I think what's next is National River Day.
On the podcast, I make everyone work extra hard on Talk Like a Pirate Day. Let's be fair. It's the opposite of a holiday here. One day we'll have National Donut Day in the United States. I mean, it is the United States. One day.
We'll get some Krispy Kremes after this.
Yeah, don't get me started.
That sounds pretty good.
That sounds fantastic. Why don't we get into the next segment? You guys ready?
Yep.
Let's have a donut.
Yo!
I want something else.
Toho.
Major film studio in Japan.
Yaro.
Guys.
We are Toho Yaro, the Toho guys.
We're a monthly movie club podcast where we watch a Japanese film and talk about it.
We discuss things like the existential dread of Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru.
And a cat portrait that barfs gallons of blood and house.
And just who is Tora-san?
Explore the world of giant monsters, historic swordsmen, and melodramatic truckers from Toho Studios and beyond with us,
Toho
Yaro.
Part of the Maji Media Network, available wherever you get your podcasts.
We are Maji.
This is the Tree Together segment where we take your branches, your leaves, and your sticks. That's how that goes, right? Let's start with our first segment, Ed.
Yes. DSPs.
This is where we take your questions from Discord for Patreon subscribers only, so please subscribe to us on patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast, and you can ask your question on, what's the segment again, Ed?
DSP.
Yeah, I'm just going to make him say that as much as possible.
It's fun.
For everyone. Let's start with Hyperbola Bully. Anyone have any new thoughts on the length of this arc and when it's going to end now that the wedding part of it is over?
Well, I haven't felt like it dragged at all, and it's been going on for over a year at this point. So,
yeah,
I haven't felt it week to week, so I'm enjoying it.
I'm feeling like there's been a bit, just based on what we were led to believe at the start of the year, that there was going to be Whole Cake Island and then Reverie, and then we're going to dip our toes into Wano. I feel like there's been some George R. R. Martin time lengthening going on here. And at this point, I would be surprised if it ended before the end of the year. That's my gut take.
I'm going to go ahead and predict Reverie is November and into December, and then I think the very first chapter of the Wano arc is going to be the very last chapter of the year. And then they can officially go, look, we got through all three.
Greg?
I have to, I think, disagree with myself a little bit, because I think we did predictions last time I was on, and I think that he kind of has to do Wano this year, because they have that promotion in Kyoto going on.
Yep.
So I think due to that, he has a responsibility to all the people involved in that to do Wano this year. I think it would probably be from fall. But
what is the thing in Kyoto that you're referring to?
Nobody knows yet, but it's supposed to be pretty large. I don't even have any hints on it. I know nothing about it. But
do we know when it starts?
They're saying it in the fall.
Mid-October, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying in the fall, all of Kyoto will be bathed in One Piece. So like there will be One Piece stuff at the at Kyoto Station and at famous locations around Kyoto. I live really close, so I can easily go to that. But I mean, if you're traveling from very, very far, I don't know if it's going to be that big of an event. But he still has a responsibility to do Wano if they're going to label. They're like, Wano is going to appear in the actual Wano. That's kind of like how they're billing it. So he kind of has to. But then again, it's Oda, so he doesn't really have to do anything.
You did bring up something interesting, and that's we made predictions, and Greg, you made yours the last time I think you were on. And we're getting close to the first one, and that comes from Roger, who said that Whole Cake Island will end in the next chapter. So, I'm sorry,
really?
Roger.
I said it was next chapter. Well, I
said 875, yeah. And the next one after that is Ed at 876. So you have 2 more chapters. Now remember, it's Price is Right.
Like I don't get to host the episode every week.
Yeah, now you don't get to. Yeah, now you don't get to host. But Greg, you said 894. Steven, you said 895. So those would probably both be next year. I said 901, but I don't want to win. Let's go to the next question, unless anyone else has anything.
You don't want to win?
Well, I just wanted to mention, I mean, fall's very close. Fall's like, that would be like 3 or 4 more chapters. You know?
My cousins are almost back in high school now.
No, if he
school's almost starting.
Pull that off.
Don't say that.
All of August and all of September. I mean, that's like 8 chapters, right?
I mean, 8 chapters
September,
is a lot.
I guess it depends on what you consider September. I consider that fall.
I feel like...
Well, I know, but the Kyoto event that they were talking about is October. It's,
okay.
I have the exact date for that, too. Because I did a video on it. Let me pull it up real quick, and I can tell you guys.
I think it was like October 4th through 10th. Oh, maybe it was later than that. Okay. No, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't have that.
That seems a little more like 2 months sounds more doable to me than like 3 or 4 more.
Well,
chapters.
remember, it's not even 2 months because even just next week we have a break, and I think there's a few holidays between then and.
According to the article too, it's from the Anime News Network. It says the One Piece 20th Cross Kyoto Straw Hat Travel Journal, Another Country of Wano event will take place from October 7th to October 22nd, and it says the One Piece manga is expected to enter the Country of Wano arc this year. So, yeah, October the 7th through the 22nd.
I think we were all skeptical even when he said that back in at Jump Festa at the beginning of the year, but hopeful, but.
He'd almost have to skip the Reverie or rearrange it.
That's why I thought he was going to do Reverie in the cover story because he could totally have pulled that off. But
yeah, I'm a little shocked. That would have been a really interesting cover story. I'll put it that way. But it's
maybe
probably
he thinks it's like too important.
I would think so.
Into a cover story?
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next question. We could really talk about that like forever. Morgul asks, so in this one chapter, the Straw Hats managed to win over King Baum, Zeus, and Pudding. Do you think Luffy might topple Big Mom's empire not by force, but instead by convincing everyone to just ally with him instead?
Don't believe everything that you see, Not everything is as it appears.
Ed is really into the bad pudding.
I'm just having fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's reasonable.
It was pretty shocking to see Zeus so easily swayed.
He's a simple man.
Yeah,
I think.
It's the gluttony part of Big Mom that makes that really easy for me to believe. He liked the lightning, so he ate it, and that's all he wants. He just wants more of it.
He likes black balls. He likes black balls in his mouth.
Poppin' milk duds. We have a question here from Newton, which I didn't understand, but I think, Greg, you do.
All right, so there is a question that kind of addresses the Bartholomew Kuma joining the crew based on like the number of his devil fruits and like what they can represent, and his is like Nikyu, which means like 2 and 9, and like, oh, does that mean he's good? It was some convoluted, almost like astrology type of prediction for why Bartholomew Kuma was going to join the crew. And it became quite popular. And this person is asking, what about if it meant Neko? And it is. I don't believe that Oda sets up anything like that in a series. Like, oh, hey, look at the numbers like this. I think all of those are due to serendipity. And they're amazing, but I mean, create thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pages of material, and that's bound to happen. But at the heart of their question is this person wants to see a saber-tooth neko fruit, and I am actually in line with that because some time ago I looked into whether the members of his. I'm not describing Kaido, whether the members of Kaido's crew would all be ancient zones or not. I don't know if I discussed this on the podcast or not, but I suggested that Jack, who I'm just going to assume are both king and queen, they're all ancient zones. And
you think Oda's been watching the Ice Age films?
One could hope Ray Romano shows up somewhere around the.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm in agreement with you too, because like we know X Drake right now is with Kaido, and he's a T-Rex. So
which is why I have not gone deep into this. It just entered my mind. It was like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It popped in there, and I was like, "Ooh, I wonder, is Drake king? Is he king? Because Tyrannosaurus Rex means
king. Yeah,
yeah." And he is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And we know that Kaido has a mammoth for him. He also could have a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I believe that the other is a saber-toothed tiger, and then it's probably a female, because you need a good female in there. for sure. And I think we need a very strong one to fight either Nami or Robin. Could be anybody, but come on, this is Oda we're talking about, so let's be a little bit realistic. I want to believe that the four of them will have their different islands. And this is going a little bit into Wano. I won't go that deep, but each one of them has command of an island, and there will be an assault on each island. And I believe that Kaido, we've talked about this, will be the coolest of the ancient powerful weapons, and a mythical one at that, a dragon.
We've had a lot of discussions about that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we get into Reddit, Steven?
Okay, we'll start with VanMan51, longtime listener, first-time commenter. In the latest volume, it was revealed Katakuri's Mochi Mochi Devil Fruit was changed from Logia to Special Paramythia. I was wondering if you guys thought this change was necessary or why Oda might have decided to retcon it. Also, do you think his Special Paramythia is a new subset of Devil Fruit, like Mythical or Ancient Zone, or just a way to explain the Logia-like traits of the Mochi Mochi fruit? Keep up the great work. I don't know if Greg has any thoughts about this specifically, but I imagine that it is the latter. That is, it's probably that because he said that the Mochi fruit was Logia in the original chapter, and then probably he got readers asking him like, hey, what's the deal? Why, this Mochi isn't a force of nature? And he was like, oh, shit, you're right. I need to come up with a different explanation for this. And that he just sort of, fixed it like that. I don't know. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, Greg?
Yeah, I think that's probably more in line with what happened. He could have totally gone with the Mochinoki. I mean, that is something that makes perfect sense, but it looks like he wanted it to be actual mochi. You could also explain it. I mean, we've got cotton candy clouds, right? But no, Streusen has made them. Okay, of course. So yeah, that doesn't make sense. Good. Okay, so they're not naturally occurring. Streusen has made all of those cotton. Wow, Streusen must be just made of time. So
what else is he doing?
He's been there the longest.
Yeah.
Aren't the dog-tooth violet flowers that are called katakuri, aren't those used to make starch? So couldn't that technically be like a weird workaround? If he really wanted to be like, it's a natural thing that occurs because it's a type of flower.
But it has to be processed. And that's what's important about it.
Also, I feel like that's really stretching the definitions of the right.
Maybe when it was written, he looked at it sort of from the sense of when we first saw Trebles, we didn't really know what was going on with it, and then characters were saying, believe me, don't get me started. I hate that guy. But how people thought, his power almost looks as if it works like a Logia, and then obviously we found out he was just a skinny dude who covered himself in that nasty gunk
and is able to split himself in half randomly. But that's not talking about that.
But with this, I think maybe it was the type of situation where he wanted to describe that his powers are similar to that of a Logia, and then it just sort of got lost in translation or in editing or whatever. And that's how we ended up with Paramecia. I don't even know if it'd be a subset, though. Maybe it's like an awakened Paramecia fruit, or...
Jinbei specifically says it's a special Paramecia.
Yeah.
So he... I don't even want to comment on it. I don't know anything about it, but it's just like we know so little, and it's possible that even Oda himself knows very little about what he's decided on this. I mean, there was a huge problem with Devil Fruits in the One Piece magazine Volume 1. Reiju being listed as a Devil Fruit user was a huge problem. Like they addressed that at the One Piece Tower event. So let's just take a step back from it and accept it. And I personally, I'm a fan of it. I'm a big fan of the decision. I think it makes sense. And hooray for Special Paramecia.
Yeah.
By the way, I should also point out on the topic of corrections, I had a little birdie had informed me that this might be coming, and we did find out that in fact from Big Mom's flashback that the Marine officer Jun Giant is actually just John Giant. It is the John Giant that we know.
No Jun Giant Jingleheimer Schmidt. No. His name wasn't his name at all.
Yeah. So yes, we'll follow that up with Cinders, who has another category question. Do you think there is a strong possibility? Okay, two options here. Do you think that there is a strong possibility that Katakuri will join the Straw Hats, or that it's highly unlikely?
This sounds like one of those Bush best president, greatest president, or great president.
Strongly agree or strongly disagree. I think this is very unlikely.
Yeah, what?
I'm just gonna say no.
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 Fierce Alchemist, what do you think is the likelihood that Zeus stays with Mami long term? Personally, I doubt Oda will do that, but I'd love to see it happen.
Well,
like,
it's a
as
homie.
her latest power up. Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, I would personally love Zeus.
I want to see it
hang
be
out.
part of like the Quinton. You know how Quinton is part of like a like a pack. I want to see it like I want to see part of him break off and be given to Nami because she's got the freaking staff. Come on, she's gonna be like a female Goku.
I like it. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Wow, I didn't even think of that. That's cool, Greg. Yeah, I like that.
Trollumph says, I know you guys are constantly baffled by what characters are and aren't popular in Japan, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the character poll. My question is this: what does an OPP-only character poll look like? Something tells me that Law and Ace wouldn't be quite as high as they are. Did you guys ever do a big character poll as a special, something similar to ARC rankings?
Yeah, save your opinions, guys, because I want to do this. This is something I want to do.
Sounds fun.
One Piece podcast only, not even the fans. Well, maybe the fans too, but just us and our fans. We'll do like 2 separate polls.
Why don't we just write in our top 100 and you?
Or even we could. I bet.
Or
we could even
Zach,
do
if
top
you
10.
want to make a list of all 1,000 characters, or whatever.
This is
Wait,
what spreadsheets were
Greg,
made for.
Greg, do you have a? I'm sure you have a list somewhere of like every One Piece character, right?
You know,
Steven's got a style guide,
Dude
right?
And I tried to do this one. Yeah.
You do, Greg?
Dude and I tried to do this one time. There's a program, and there are far more characters now, but I think it went up to Dressrosa, and it took a long time.
Oh yeah, we played with that thing on the show.
Yeah.
I feel like when, because they said that the full results of the character poll will be in volume 87. And I feel like if we just waited for that and then just took all the names that are in there, that's pretty much all the characters you will need.
Well,
if
that
I had
plus
to guess.
Morgan's.
Plus Morgan's.
And,
yeah.
you know, the rest
Make sure
of
they keep
the newest characters that probably aren't in there. Morgan's has to be in there because he's going to win. It's an easy answer, guys. But yeah, maybe at the end of the year we'll do something like that. I think that would be a really cool special. Good idea. From Trollumph. Trollumph triumphed. Anyway, go ahead.
Jojo Hunter says, did you know people ship Nami and Arlong? That is very disturbing to me.
No.
People
Next
ship
question,
a lot of stuff.
please.
People ship everything.
Yeah.
I know that now.
Any kind of character dynamic, people will find a way to ship that. Brave Sabo says there have been a lot of complaints in the One Piece community regarding these past chapters, mainly because of plot armor, pacing, and inconsistencies. Thoughts? I mean, it's hard to say without any specific examples as to what is bothering people. Because you could say that about any stretch of One Piece, pretty much. I think there's always people who are complaining about stuff.
Yeah,
I think people know how we feel about it based on if they listen to the show. So, I'm happy to address any specific criticisms, but I think like we talk about things that we're critical about on the show.
I think we're pretty open when we don't like something, including in this chapter. But I think we've all been really enjoying this arc and these last few chapters.
Yeah. If I had to guess based on like just browsing like thread titles and stuff in like Reddit and just kind of looking very vaguely skimming over posts on like Arlong Park and stuff, it seems like there are definitely some people who are like just shocked that like Big Mom, because she's an Emperor of the Sea, that she isn't like, her entire crew just isn't completely demolishing Luffy and everybody else. And that, it's not drastically different from any other arc we've seen before in the story, which to me just kind of misinterprets like how One Piece works as a story.
Yes.
And that's been every arc. Every arc is a bump up from the previous ones in terms of like the supposed danger and stuff like that. And I feel like that that's just a constant thing.
Yeah, I mean, Doflamingo had that menacing quality back in Dressrosa. Even Caesar was menacing before we really got to know him.
Luffy always has to win, and there's really, it's hard to do that and also preserve the the reputation and the mystique of a villain. And I don't know, especially I think with Kaido looming in the background over this arc, it's kind of hard to expect Big Mom to just completely destroy them. And I think he's done a good job of showing her off as a kind of force of nature. And I find like the reasons why the Straw Hats have been able to succeed, I find them either entertaining or satisfying. So, I'm
Steven,
not. Yeah.
You and I, we talk, sometimes for hours about some of the stuff about his checks and balances.
Right.
And part of the reason why this arc has been so entertaining is because everything checks out. Some people are like, well, why didn't Mom, destroy them here or do this here? Or why isn't she? There's a reason for every one of those situations that Oda has specifically made. Why this didn't happen there, why that didn't happen for that reason. And if you go through each of them with a fine-tooth comb and you look at each of those reasons, they're all there. They're in the material. But just some people are like, well, why didn't she do this? Or why? And it's just like, what you got to read, man. You really got to get into it. You got to know what he's trying to do with this story, and what he is doing, what he's accomplishing.
And it's definitely.
Danger.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Roger.
No. Go. I want to hear what you're going to say.
I was just going to say that I think this. I was actually thinking about this earlier. Just a slight tangent. Our friend Sam was on a podcast called Manga Mavericks where they talked about One Piece this week, and I was listening to it, and they were talking about why Fishman Island and Dressrosa were two arcs that like disappointed people a lot. And a thing that they mentioned about both is that there was a lot of buildup with a lot of people waiting for years for these specific confrontations or locations to happen. And I think that there's kind of this danger that people run into, like managing expectations. And so I think possibly there's just this thing where we're like, okay, she's an emperor of the sea, and you get this kind of like buildup of like how powerful you might think that means, and it suddenly becomes kind of inflated in your head to where it's this completely unstoppable force, and nothing is going to measure up to the things that you were kind of vaguely expecting to happen.
To be fair, Big Mom's more of the immovable object, less of the unstoppable force.
Yeah, and that was the point I was going to bring up, is that like the people who are saying this about this arc, it's like they're running away from Big Mom right now. Yeah. They're not trying to fight her. Like if this was any other arc, Luffy would be going one-on-one against Big Mom at the ending, and he would unlock Gear 5 or something. Like that's how this would be in any other arc, and that's not what Oda's doing with the story right now. And I think that's sort of why it was so important for him to hype up these Yonko Commander characters, because to me they're sort of on the level of who would otherwise be the main villains of any of the previous arcs. So we had like the big Luffy versus Cracker fight, at least, yeah. So we had like Luffy versus Cracker earlier during this arc. Like I mentioned during this chapter, it seems pretty clear to me that like this is probably going to end with some type of Luffy versus Katakuri confrontation. And then the stuff with Big Mom, I truly don't believe that's going to be at all like a one-on-one fight. Even if all the characters come together and try to fight her, I think it's more of calming her down and figuring out how that's going to happen with getting the ingredients to make the cake, and how Sanji and Pudding and the rest of them are going to come into play. And plus, whatever the Vinsmokes are going to be doing from here on out now, too. I'm sure we're going to see some giant transforming robot or something, So there's still a lot of other stuff left to this arc. And I can't speak for everybody, but I know personally, as somebody who started reviewing the chapters on YouTube with Dressrosa, then going through Zoe, and then now here, this feels much more on the level of a Zoe than it does a Dressrosa to me. And I don't mean that in terms of the content. I mean in terms of week-to-week enjoyability. I found myself really liking every single chapter, whereas just as you had mentioned earlier too, Joey, is that it is about managing expectations, right? It's about, we went through Dressrosa waiting for that Luffy versus Doflamingo fight and like seeing, when is that going to happen? And then meanwhile, we had all this stuff with the bird cage and all these other like random little fights that were put in there, plus the introduction of all the Grand Fleet members. I mean, that was a really dense arc, and there was a lot of stuff to cover. And just by virtue of there being so much information, it sort of became this week-to-week slog of, all right, what character is going to fight who now? And a lot of those characters weren't really people we have a lot of investment in. This time it's against an Emperor of the Sea, and it's Luffy, plus the possibility of potentially getting a new crew member with Jinbei based on that tease in the cover page. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to break down here. And so, again, I think week to week, this is far more enjoyable to me. And yeah, in terms of that power struggle thing, I don't really know where people are coming from because again, they're not trying to fight Big Mom one-on-one.
I mean, it's definitely that
weird.
Yeah, go ahead, Joey.
Oh, just thinking about this arc and the fights and stuff so far, like, wouldn't it be strange if almost every fight has kind of like ended in chaos and not like a traditional like character is introduced, Luffy beats him, and then they move on. It would be pretty strange if Cracker is the only character that like is the main like sort of like traditional One Piece fight in this in this arc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's always I think there's always a segment of the fan base that is reading this. They want to read Dragon Ball Z in One Piece. In other words, they want everything to be the most badass thing possible. And sure, if that's if the elements of that remind you of that in One Piece are what is your primary enjoyment, that's totally fine. That's that's up to you. But One Piece is only ever going to be One Piece, and there's depending on how tuned in you are to exactly the way that Oda works, you may find yourself disappointed at times because he's telling a different type of story. We will move on to Ogru, who says, have any of you ever considered that Luffy could get an offer to become a warlord? Now, I know he's done a lot to piss the government off, but we know that Dofi and Buggy and even Law did too at Marineford. Even Ace got an offer, and Sengoku knew that he was Roger's son. I think it's a possibility that after Luffy's supporters at the Reverie praise him, and Stussy and Big Bird Morgan let the government know about Luffy's attack on Whole Cake Island, it could just happen. Akainu would be against it, but he answers to people that are willing to work with the worst criminals.
I don't know about that, because like when you attack an emperor, you're attacking the balance of the world. That's the opposite of what they would want in a warlord, right?
Possibly.
Like, he's disturbing the system. And besides the fact that what he's done against the government is way bigger than what anyone else in the story has done.
Yeah. I think that's the problem.
I mean, he took down Enies Lobby.
Luffy's better than the 7 warlords of the sea. He's the 8th warlord of the sea.
Yeah. I feel like the only way that this would happen, especially since we're all primed for Fujitora to announce his his big plan to get rid of the system, is like the only way I could see this happening is if he like says that as a joke, where he's like, what if we made Luffy the warlord, and then they take him seriously.
I mean, we know
like that.
We know Luffy would not accept that, so it's almost moot to even bring that into the story. It just would be a waste of time at the end of the day, because we know how that ends. What's next?
Black Northland says, my question of the week is, if Vegapunk can create things 500 years ahead of other scientists, why haven't any flying vehicles been built by the government, or is it something that they would be against?
I mean, the Jetsons thought it would have
emissions restrictions.
Why hasn't he invented a time machine and gone back to kill baby Hitler? Yeah, this is a very open-ended question.
That's more of a Dragon Ball Super question, I think, at this point. With all the parallel universes and time machines. Anyway, what's next? Yeah.
Speaking of which, Nick Fridge says, is it just me, or is Oda trying to make Son Nami? She's already got the extending staff, and she does the after image trick with her Mirage Tempo, and now she might get to ride on a cloud. It all seems too perfect to me. All she needs is a Kamehameha.
I hope to see that.
Probably do.
Well.
She gets lightning, then hey.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that the little reply underneath that is from a guy named Not Just You, who writes, probably not.
Or is it that was too? Is it just bot. Is it just me? Oh, is that what it is?
That's a Reddit bot that auto responds to anything that says, "Is it just me?" Move on to.
I was gonna say, like, does that fulfill that Nami wearing Goku's clothes action figure fulfillment right there?
There you go. Nice. Does that make Pickham's the turtle hermit? I don't know.
Oh, by the way, what I would do for a figure of Nami on top of Zeus with the staff, that just as if she were
doing the classic
Kid Goku pose.
Yeah, love it.
I'd buy that.
Z Kenpachi says, I noticed that Prometheus still has a bandage from when he fought Brooke. I kind of thought that detail would be left out for the remainder of the arc. Considering it is still there, I'm wondering if Brooke will be hurting them again, meaning the 3 soul homies, or maybe someone will put more damage onto the bandage spot. It's kind of a small detail, but any thoughts on how Oda might use it going forward?
I'm glad this person brought up Brooke, because that's probably kind of the most interesting dangling thread, is that Brooke and Chopper are on the submerge right now, heading to the Thousand Sunny, and I'm curious how that's going to play into everything.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I like that. I did not notice the bandage thing, but I mean, he's been tying together little details really well this arc. So now that you mention that, that would not surprise me if that becomes a thing. It's kind of similar to how like Luffy's tooth being knocked out. That was a thing until he made up with Sanji, basically. So I could see that little thing coming around. Luminilis says, no doubt you'll discuss the hell out of Pudding tonight. I'm on the side that thinks that what we're seeing now is genuine. So good Pudding. I have a theory related to her. I think that the Pudding we saw back when Luffy and company first met her is the idealized version of herself that Pudding wants to be, but could never bring herself to actually become. Basically, when she's acting, she's pretending to be a Pudding that doesn't have a third eye, and that's why she's seemingly so genuine in those scenes. Sanji having reacted as he did might very well be something she's entertained idle fantasies of ever since she was young, not with him specifically, but seeing that it actually happened when she expected the exact opposite did enough to break whatever mental barriers she has up. I actually wonder if Pudding hasn't used her memory powers on herself to seal off certain memories when that eye is closed.
That actually reminded me of something I want to mention related to this, is that in, I think it was the last chapter, I don't think I was here, which is why I don't think I got to mention it. She talks about her ability to make chocolate, I think it was, and talks that up.
Mm-hmm.
And it really harkens back to when we first met her, which kind of goes to this fan's theory here, how she was just so, I think, touched that they all liked her chocolate recipe. And at the time, thinking back on it, we were, oh, that's an act. But there probably was a part of her, if this is all true, that was actually affirmed by that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like this comment. I think it's interesting. I like the idea, kind of to go off of what Greg was saying. I like the idea that there could be a more nuanced version of whatever is going on with Pudding. That it's not just that, oh, she's really nice, or that she's really falling in love with Sanji and that's going to be her defining trait as a character, or that she's super evil and she's just manipulating them, but that there's something more complex at play. That would be way more satisfying to me. And so I hope that this is, barking up the right tree as far as Oda's plan for her.
Yeah, maybe she'll pull a Lola and take off on her own, self-discovery and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite likely, and that would be more satisfying than some of the other things that I can imagine at this point. Our last question from Reddit is from Zalumi. It says, with the sudden characterization of King Baum in this chapter, I don't know if that's sudden, but with the characterization of King Baum, do you think the question of whether or not homies should be viewed with the same level of morals and sympathy as other races will come up in this arc? If homies are made of pieces of other living beings' souls, then are they really alive in a sense? It's an ethical dilemma that is different than the Thriller Bark zombies. The soul fragments in a homie don't appear to return to the original soul of the person they came from. Do they cross over to the afterlife when they die? Or am I overthinking it?
I don't know. I think the essential nature of the homies highlights like the unreality Big Mom has created around herself. Like, there's no way any of these things can ever question her. They don't have any real free will. I mean, ultimately, King Bomb, he pretty strong will, but ultimately he just got destroyed. So, I don't know. It's very fake. It's just very fake.
I feel like King Baum's connection with the Straw Hats, for as twisted as it might be, because it was mostly just him kind of getting dicked over by Nami, but there was something. I think there was some kind of personal connection there that he wasn't, it wasn't like a Brûlé situation or a Caesar situation.
Wasn't there quite before?
Yes. Yeah. I think that kind of speaks to to like Oda's general practice of having the Straw Hats as a kind of force of friendship in a way. That no matter what the situation is over a group, like they can find a way to connect with at least one character who represents a better side of whatever group you're talking about. And so I'm not particularly surprised that there was a bit of humanity to King Baum. But I don't know if it's going to get to that level of philosophy, since it doesn't seem like that's really entirely the point of Big Mom's character. But I guess we'll see when things get really, really climactic and dramatic as to what he wants to do with her character. And that's it for Reddit.
Thank you, Stephen. Ed, it's time for our final Piece Together segment, and that is...
Piece the Tweezer.
What do we have this week?
First one comes from Eric Morito 1. He says, my votes went to Zorro and Brooke because he voted on his phone and on his tablet for the American poll. Who did you vote for? Oh, obviously, I voted for Zorro.
I voted
vote for anyone else.
I voted for Luffy, I think.
I voted for Usopp.
I did not vote.
Whoa!
I voted for Jack.
It's conflict of interest, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I should be impartial.
That's what it is. Yeah, you would have voted for King Baum, obviously.
Yeah. King
what's
Baum,
next?
500 votes.
Joey, did you have one?
I didn't vote. Sorry.
Wow. What is happening, guys?
Yeah, this is what's wrong with America.
Yeah.
To be fair, yes.
I voted that time and then see what happens.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's good point. Good point. Yeah, Ed.
The Dr. Monkey asked, he just wanted to do good pudding, bad pudding, but he added the bit about maybe Oda wants us to never trust her.
Well,
this is the effect the flip-flopping is having on the
he's
audience.
succeeding. Yeah, that's a good point. It's not a
Yeah.
bad thing that we don't trust her as a character.
Dog pudding.
She's pretty evil, so there she has been. Anyway, Jonathan St. Martin asks, but more commends Stephen for, he says he deserves an award for the number of clever arboreal puns he's come up with. So people out there...
I think there are some people that were suggesting that I win an award, like in a bad way.
Our awards can be bad?
A Grammy.
Yeah, what's next?
Next one comes from Cracker Jaku, who says, could we see the return of knife-wielding Sanji, since Wanzi's ramen battle suit is similar to Katakuri's mochi power?
Yeah.
I could see it. Like, that's like a food devil fruit. Kind of calls out for it.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how this arc ends. Yeah, I'm not quite sure yet.
Mm-hmm. Ahmed Muhammad asked, he asked about the changing from a Logia to a Paramecia, and we went through that already. So the next one comes from Deep Sea Salt _. It says, anyone else on Team Pudding is a bad person that just so happens to be betting on the lesser of two evils?
Yeah, I think that was Greg, kind of.
No, this time he's the lesser of two evils. All right. Okay.
It's Pudding's fault that the stadium collapsed.
Right.
Ed?
Huggy V also wants to talk about good pudding, bad pudding, and we've done a lot of that already.
People really like talking about pudding.
That's
interesting.
a big question.
Where you see you got your good puddings and your bad puddings.
Not doing that reference.
Put the pills away. Right.
It's like Kodak film.
I'm not declaring a mistrial on this podcast. Please, Ed.
Ghost Dad sucked. Anyway, Ely the Ghost asks, how do you like reading One Piece most? By digitally or paper?
You know, I really am very attached to books, but the Shonen Jump, like the digital Shonen Jump, is like really amazing how good it looks, especially with Oda's sort of weird penchants for double page spreads that cut off in strange places and stuff like that. The digital, it really works super, super well, but I'm then happy to like have the paper books so I could just like sit wherever and read it. And I don't know.
I am sentimental for books. I do have a collection of all of the One Piece volumes and paper. I don't have any of them digitally, but I do read week to week digitally. And frankly, I like both. I like being able to go outside with my because I don't have a tablet or anything. So if I'm going to carry something, it's going to be a paper book.
I'd say digitally, I like having screen caps available for things, and then the volumes, and I mean the Shonen Jump print, if you've ever seen it, is really crappy.
True.
So I mean, I don't read Japanese, but that would probably be my bottom choice if I did.
Unfortunately, a lot of the shine has come off of the print version for me specifically, because obviously I have to read all of them digitally first, and then when they're finally collected into books, not only is it like material that's old, like it's usually at least an extra 5 to 10 chapters old by that point, so it's like, oh yeah, I remember all this stuff, and I remember going through every one of these chapters, and then the way that I interact with the book is by having to obsessively check all the text from Japanese to English for volume versus chapter over and over and over again to compile a list of edits and corrections and things that I may want to change for the graphic novel, which is a very tedious process. And so unfortunately, I can't really savor it the way that I used to when I was just a pure reader. But if they ever come out with a nice fancy larger print edition with a larger trim size and everything that's super fancy, I would sure love to go back to them.
Mm-hmm. To one of those points, a thing that's as frustrating as it is that Viz's volumes are so far behind where the weekly chapters are, it's kind of nice to like get an excuse every few months to kind of like read where we were at about a year ago or whatever the gap is, and kind of like now, like with the new volume that just came out in English, was like right when they're first meeting Pudding and stuff, I think, and or around that time, and it was kind of nice to like read that again with this context that we now have.
Yeah, and I will say also, as a translator, one of the nice things about turning in, especially for books that I really like working on, is that turning them in and then it just disappears into the production process for like 6 to maybe up to 12 months, depending on what kind of book it is, and then getting to see the finished version where I've forgotten a lot of the little wordplay and things that so I get to see it with a fresher pair of eyes, and sometimes that's fun because I get surprised by things that I would probably remember word for word if it was just a few weeks after I turned it in. So that's sometimes fun too.
What's next?
Andy Yoho adds rest in peace, King Baum. Thanks for turning over a new leaf. Who are Tree kidding? He's not dead. All right. You tried.
I'm glad we're getting to the root of this.
Oh boy.
Anyway, next one comes from Ash, who asks us to take each of the Straw Hats' names and turn it into the name of a food dish. For example, Jimbei is Jimbeilaya.
This is a tough thing to do on the spot.
Yeah, on the spot?
Namikans.
Well,
yeah.
That works really well, huh?
Yeah.
A soup.
A soup.
That's the best I'm coming up with.
Which character is that?
Usopp. A soup.
That's good.
It's the best joke I'm coming up with in a long time, so enjoy it.
Choppered walnuts. I don't know.
Sure.
Ballpark Frankies, maybe?
Oh. I like that. Yeah, that's all I got for now. We're on the spot. I know people are going to be tweeting us in like the next few days. Oh, how did you not say this one thing?
Chocolate chip rookies.
I like that.
How about two characters? Choppered broccoli.
You can't see it, but I'm face palming so deep into my hand.
Wonderful. Oh.
Holding my hand over my face and laughing like a Japanese girl.
Caesar salad.
Well,
it's for you, Sam.
Caesar salad for Straw Hat.
What's next?
91 Ryan says, "Are you aware that you have your own TV tropes page?" Unfortunately, yes. I choose not to read it. Also, what are your fan tropes in One Piece? I disagree with the entire category of the tropes discussion.
Are we going to look at it and it's still going to be like, these are jokes about Fire Crouch and Jason?
The reasons I don't look.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Does anyone just know tropes?
I don't go on that site, so
I don't either.
I don't know.
The question what the tropes of One Piece fans are?
Fan tropes?
I think Ed disagrees with the premise of the question.
Yeah, I think
okay. It's not that I'm offended by it. It's just like I don't understand. I don't understand that website most of the time. I'm like, why would
I get it? But it's not...
I understand the obsessive cataloging of media because look at me, I'm on this show. But
that's true.
It's putting even more work into it than we do. Just BSing for 3 hours a week.
Speaking of, what's the last question this week?
All right, big news. Beppo says, long-time listener, first time asking a question. Who is a better dad, Vince Smoke or Shao Tucker?
I mean, come on. Vince Smoke is actually way better. The Shao Tucker, for those who haven't seen FMA, I won't say too much.
Besides, being horrible, he's also a shit alchemist.
Yeah, he's also inept. At least it seems like Vince Smoke Judge is a pretty good scientist from what we've been able to see. So much so that Big Mom took a real interest in assassinating him just for the things he created. So at least he's a good scientist.
Yep. But that's it for Piece the Tweet.
Yeah, and that's an interesting note to end on. Why don't we round off the show? You guys ready?
Sure.
Woo!
Yeah. Let's kill this abomination. This has been episode 481 for the week of Monday, August 7th, 2017. Great show today, you guys. Thank you all so much for coming on. We will be at Otakon this weekend for 20 years of One Piece. That's our panel. It's Saturday morning at 11:30 in panels room 1. Also 202, depending on how you're reading the number there. Please go to Guidebook. Rate our panel even before you go or after you go. Please let your friends know about this panel. We're putting a lot of work into it, and we have so many damn prizes that I don't know how the hell we're giving them all out, but please come to our panel. I think we're going to have a lot of leftover prizes for our meetup, and that's going to be that same day, that Saturday at 1 p.m., so please keep an eye on the site and more information on that and what we'll be doing at Otakon. You definitely want to follow our Twitter account. That's at twitter.com/OnePiecePodcast. The meetup is going to be at the Carnegie Library West, which I think is right across the street from the convention center. And if you're in Washington, D.C. and you don't have an Otakon ticket or something, but you want to meet up with us, that would be the place to do it. That'll be at 1 p.m. On Saturday. So please, we hope to see you there. Please come to our panel. So before we round off, how could the good people out there contact you guys? Joey, let's start with you.
Sure. They can follow me on Twitter at Joey Weiser or joeyweiser.tumblr.com for updates about my comic stuff. I'm a cartoonist, and the recently completed Merman graphic novel series is out there for your consumption. It's 5 books and coming out in softcover now, but the hardcovers are all out and it's available digital as well. Another comic thing I have coming out is this month in August. The first issue of Rich Tommaso's Spy Seal is coming out, and I have a backup in that, starring a little ninja owl. And that was a fun little backup comic to draw. And please listen to my podcast, Toho Yaro, that I do monthly with Alex from the One Piece podcast and our friend Scott. And it's a monthly Japanese movie review podcast. I recently hosted an episode about Tokyo Drifter, which was a really great, kind of weird cult sort of classic movie to talk about. And Alex just put out an episode he hosted about a 2014 movie called Wood Job. That was a really fun movie about forestry. So yeah, and you can follow Toho Yaro on Twitter and Facebook as well.
Thank you, Joey. Yeah, please follow our sister podcast, Toho Yaro, and listen to it also. Greg, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ochimusha108. It's OCHIMUSHA 108. Also on the official One Piece website, one-piece.com/special/Greg. You can find all my articles. They should be back up. They told me that with the site's renewal, they'd slowly be putting my articles back up over the course of a month, and I think they're all back up now. And of course, you can click through those, and as you click through to each article, each of them has an English version available. So check those out if you like. Lots of exciting things going on, so looking forward to the coming year.
Yeah, and I hope, I like how we've had you on a little bit more recently. Hope that that trend can continue. We'll find out. And enjoy your mountain day, Greg.
Yay! I'm going to stay inside and relax.
No, you have to go hike the tallest peak nearby. I believe that's the ancient tradition of this very long-held holiday.
Nope.
I think I have all the facts there correct. I mean, I haven't heard any negative connotations there. Dennis, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at itchnob, and feel free to message me and stuff about anything you want on there, whether it's like Voltron or Archery or other Shonen Jump titles that are running on the U.S. Releases anyway, because I'd love to talk more about like Black Clover. I also do a twice a month podcast, every other week podcast called the Vintage Anime Club, where me and a couple of friends drink a couple bottles of wine while talking and reviewing about old school anime titles. And our next episode is going to be about the Clamp OVA Tokyo Babylon. So you can find that on vintageanimeclub.com and other places where you can get podcasts.
Vintage Anime Club. I now remember the name. Thanks, Dennis.
Vintage wine, vintage anime. So that's why we.
There we go.
Had
that's a good
that pun.
Yeah, no, I like it.
And I was mad because Weeaboos got taken. I was like, oh, that's a good one too.
That is a good one. I haven't heard of that, but it's a good name. Roger, where can people find you?
Sure. You can find me on YouTube at Rogers Base, ROGERSBASE. I do anime and manga reviews for One Piece every single week. Because One Piece is going to be on break next week, I am going to be doing a My Hero Academia read-through instead. So that should be a lot of fun, catching up with the series and talk with you guys online. Additionally, I have a really cool video going up tomorrow for anybody who's a Nintendo fan. Nintendo flew me out to San Francisco for a special demo event, and I have been working on that editing in the background for the past couple days, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out. And what else? What else is there to plug? Just my YouTube, my Twitter, my Instagram. I'm Rogers Base everywhere, and I think that's it. Oh, I want to plug Greg's YouTube channel though, because Greg's YouTube channel is really good, which is also Ochimusha 108. It's awesome.
Oh my gosh! Thank you. Yeah, hoping to get right back into that. Having a lot of fun with it, but it is tough. It is tough, man, to try to get those videos out. Whew.
Oh, yeah.
Did Greg just squee? Anyway, Stephen, where can people find you?
Sure, you can follow me on Twitter if you like, at Translatosaurus. As for me, let's see, I just turned in my last, I believe it is my last bit of work regarding Battle Angel Alita. So that's done, and I'm just about to start working on a really neat side project, which I had been thinking that it would possibly have been announced during the kind of summer con season, but it has not gotten out yet. So I'm not sure when I'll be able to talk about that. But it is super cool. People will be very excited about that. And in the meantime, I guess in more recent news, I suppose, or upcoming news, since we have the break next week with the manga, we'll be going through either Volume 86 or Volume 2 of the magazine. I'm not sure if we have a final decision on that.
Next week, I'll talk a bit about it after we go through our contact information. Okay. Ed, where could the good people find us?
Well, Zach, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I'm Edward D. Festezio. The podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. One Piece Podcast is our Skype name. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Support us, please. Patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Google Play, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, or call us on our phone number, Zach.
That phone number is 347-497-MAJI. That phone number again is 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime.
With your questions, your comments, and your theories. Next week, we will be at Otakon, so we hope to have our Otakon panel for you next week. We are also going to be recording our One Piece film Gold commentary while we're in Washington, D.C. That will probably be a Patreon exclusive, so if you want to hear that first, please subscribe on patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. Those are always a lot of fun. Those are highlights of the year. We're going to be doing a lot of other stuff over there, so please keep an ear to the ground. We'll have more news about when we're doing our Volume 86 and Magazine Volume 2 recap as well, coming up in the coming days. So, again, hope to see you at Otakon, Saturday, 11:30 a.m. in Panel Room 1. And until then, everyone, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. So
That's not coming straight from the heart.
Snot through the heart.
Snot through the heart. Yes, thank you.
Oh my god.
Steve will hate that one. I'm writing that down.